That night the forest silence was broken by the crackling of a fire, loud laughter and the clink of glasses. First-year students at Shanghai University, which also includes our hero Lucas, decided to organize a joint overnight camping trip. This event is special for our hero, since next to him is his girlfriend Mino, the sweetest, kindest, and most beloved in his eyes. The sun set a long time ago. It was time to put out the fire, go to the tents, and get ready for bed. Behind the group of students walking to their sleeping places, cheerful, intoxicated by a pleasant evening and alcohol, only one was closely watching our lovers, with a gaze full of malice. Lucas excitedly crawls into the tent with Mino, where they will spend the night alone. But what is this guy up to? Left alone with his angelically sweet beloved, our hero could not hide his desires. She was too charming before bed. But today Lucas received a refusal and a promise to do it next time. Mino was too tired. Hopes for the expected end of the evening did not come true. But our hero did not want to rush the girl, let everything happen a little later. Having wished each other good night, they fell asleep to the sounds of the night forest, whispers and rustling coming from other tents. A little later, in his sleep, Lucas felt intense heat. There was a smell of burning in the air. It was difficult to breathe, and a man's voice was heard commanding the fire to burn. The tent was engulfed in flames and continued to approach the hero. It was impossible to put it out on his own. And what about Mino? In his sleep, begging for help, Lucas sharply opened his eyes and jumped up. He did not immediately realize that it was just a terrible nightmare. Just a nightmare, but there were burns on my arms and legs. Everything felt as if the fire was real. Mino's sleeping place was empty. She wasn't around. Our hero was worried. It was so late. Was everything okay? Maybe she woke up and decided to go outside. Taking a flashlight, Lucas left the tent. There was no one around. Everyone had been asleep for a long time. He decided to walk forward along the path. Perhaps his girlfriend just decided to take a walk. The group chose a very picturesque place for camping, and the light of the stars was not obscured by city lights. Mino's voice was heard somewhere to the side. Her words were obscene, and her flirtatious tone was clearly visible. This cannot be true. If you get closer, it may not be what it seems. Calming himself, Lucas carefully made his way through the freshly trampled grass along the cliff. Coming closer, he saw his beloved in the arms of another. It was hard to believe it, because she had always been so innocent. Mino said that she didn't like Lucas at all, which the guy hugging her clearly enjoyed. Their eyes were cold. Their words were cruel, as if in front of him was a completely different girl. How painful it is. Everything tightens in your chest. You want to cry, moan. But you need to restrain yourself. You can't let him be seen so pathetic. His hands are shaking. His legs are holding on, causing Lucas to stumble and fly straight down the cliff. For the first seconds, our hero did not understand what had happened. He did not have time to come to his senses from the girl's betrayal, and now such a stupid death is approaching. He fell on something hard. There was no earth, no grass, and they were not stones. His whole body was in great pain from the blow. Most likely he would no longer be able to get up, and he felt like life was slowly leaving him. In the place where our hero fell, many centuries ago, after helping Lady Ninel save the heavens, Kiram had to seal himself. His body died a long time ago. It is difficult to say how much time has passed since then. Lucas fell straight onto the seal. He felt that his dream, the fire and this place were somehow connected. Kiram was surprised at this release. This boy must be his descendant, since his blood was able to destroy the seal. The human body in front of him was dying. All the bones were broken. But since the deity is now free, his spirit weakens. Kiram thought that the earth would not disappear, and the sky would not collapse if he left his current vessel, and that he would save the life of his descendant. Lucas's body was engulfed in flames. He felt how life was returning to him with wild pain. His scream could be heard for a long distance. Mino became worried that Lucas had learned the truth about her. But this excitement did not last long. She quickly returned to foreplay with her new boyfriend. Meanwhile, Lucas's body seemed to be devoured by fire. He could not understand what was happening to him. Tongues of flame spread across the body, arms and legs. The pain became pleasant. Treatment with divine flame is still a pleasure. The pain is unbearable. Kiram saved Lucas from death, but his spirit is now in the same body. The deity began to wonder what kind of girl was there because of whom the guy almost died. But indulging in memories, he thinks that nothing else can be expected from his descendant. Kiram decides to borrow the body and return to the scene. He jumps so high that he quickly gets to the top. He climbs to the top of the tree and mockingly watches what is happening. Mino notices Lucas, and it's not entirely clear why she's more worried that her deception has been discovered, or what he might have seen if she hadn't noticed him. And the unfamiliar guy seemed to be waiting for them to be found, although he says the opposite. Our hero jumps down from the tree and continues to mock their secrecy. Why clamp down so loudly for fear of being noticed? To which the stranger responds with a desire to watch such losers who caught their girls cheating. Watch the pitiful expression on their faces, and reminds him how good he had time with Mino. The provocative speech is continued. Questions about what Lucas could do. maybe he would punch his face. The offer is, of course, very tempting, and will be gladly fulfilled. Our hero jumps up with inhuman speed, so quickly that no one had time to understand where he disappeared. The stranger looks around, not understanding what to expect. He hears something rushing from the left, then from the right, and all this happens in an instant. Only he looks back and sees a hand flying towards his face, but does not have time to do anything. Well, Kiram avenged Lucas with his own hands, slamming the bastard to the ground so that the imprint remained. What incredible power, with such and such a physique. The stranger was at first confused, but it seems he wasn't particularly surprised. Moreover, he doesn't seem to be thinking of giving up. Kiram felt an ominous possessed aura emanating from the guy below him. He is turning into something. A strength that is not human began to grow noticeably in his body. He turned into something else. Claws, horns. His body began to grow, his veins inflated. The monster grabbed our hero and threw him forward as if he were no heavier than a ball. Kiram, having barely touched the ground with his fingers, deftly landed on his feet. The creature in front of him had completed its transformation. There was almost nothing human left in it. The large horns are an ancient clan of demonic spirits. Kiram encountered them long before he was sealed. Have they really not been exterminated yet? They survived by inhabiting the bodies of people, just as the divine inhabited Lucas's body. Horrified by what was happening, Mino simply lost consciousness, and Krupnarog began to salivate. Having eaten Lucas and the deity inside his body, he will become much stronger than he is now, which of course won't be so easy. After all, Kiram is not so simple, and why not try fried beef after such a long sleep? Taking a stance, Krupnarog seemed to gather demonic power in his horns, preparing for a powerful blow. But he received a withering blow to the forehead and was defeated. The human body is too weak if Kiram had been in his body. With such a blow, he would have burned the entire forest on this mountain to the very foundation. But even such a blow was enough to defeat a weak opponent. He slapped him once, and he already turned into a man. But he is still alive, and since he has a connection with the demon clan, he has no choice but to kill. The demonic spirit hurried out of fear to leave the body, gathering into a lump and muttering something. When he completely left the body, his words became more legible, pleas for mercy and forgiveness, and the appearance raised many questions. It was he who took possession of the stranger's body. But where was all the power that could be felt in the air? Continuing to beg for mercy, the small, harmless spirit said that he did not belong to the demonic clan. He was just a small spirit stuck. It seems Kiram slept too long if he doesn't know about the existence of such spirits. The little sticky one is ready to tell what the ancient spirit missed in captivity. A mysterious catastrophe led the clans of gods and demons to complete extermination, but their souls were able to survive this tragedy. They had no choice but to find refuge in the bodies of their descendants, in whom the blood of their clans flows. This symbiosis allowed the use of power, and became known as obsession. What happened to Ninel? Sticky interrupted these thoughts, promising that he never harmed people. He continued to beg for mercy. But Kiram was amazed at such impudence. Just recently he threatened to devour him, to which he replied that he was not able to eat a person, and only wanted to taste spiritual power. Sounding plausible, it seems that everything is actually as the little spirit says. Kiram is not the god of death, and will not kill him, but did not forget to remind him that if he does something like this again, there will be a beef kebab. But there will still be punishment. Lucas must be forced to take out his anger, since they share the same body. The next day, our hero woke up in his sleeping place. Everything seemed like a long dream, and his body ached as if he had gone through a roller skating rink. Is falling off a cliff also a dream? The spirit of Kiram flew up from behind and asked not to make noise early in the morning. Lucas jumped back in wild horror, insultingly calling the fire deity a demon. How could the god of fire do this? And at that moment, our hero realized that all yesterday's events were not a long dream. While our two heroes were getting acquainted, someone was quickly approaching the tent. Something happened to Mino and Thomas. Lucas began to get ready in a hurry. A crowd of students gathered in one place. Some laughed, some were shocked. Many took out their phones. The girls were actively discussing Thomas. Lucas hurried to the crowd. He was very worried that something bad had happened to Mino, and Kiram seemed to know what to expect. Apparently this was the punishment he was talking about last night. As he got closer, Lucas was speechless. Now it's clear what all the noise is. The students, of course, won't miss such gossip. Now Mino will most likely have a hard time at the university, unlike the guy. Everyone's cell phone was ringing. Messages were coming to every phone. Lucas took out his. The photos were scattered throughout all the chats with the caption, "The guy took revenge on his girlfriend and her lover." Comments were written both for such punishment and against. Kiram, seeing the mobile phone for the first time, got very excited, sent it flying around our hero and bombarded him with a lot of questions. It seems that no one can see spirits anymore. Everyone decided that Lucas had gone crazy, hanged his lovers, and was quarreling with himself. But in any ridiculous situation you can simply run away. And of course, not paying attention to the spirit, so as not to create any more awkward situations. The deity was offended by this, decided to remind him of his greatness, and demanded respect. But apparently respect was not worth expecting from Lucas, and besides, he was angry about the hanging. Now Mino will definitely leave him. Are they trying to drive away the great god of fire? Does a weak person really not want his power? Because there are so many more people in the world, possessed like Thomas, who are capable of destroying without much effort. But Lucas didn't want to become a hero. He hoped that if something happened, a real hero would come at the right time. On the way back, he said that he wanted the simplest life of an ordinary person and nothing more. Having reached the city, they saw a fire in the women's dormitory. The fire was growing quite quickly, and the firefighters were not yet on site. A student ran among the people and asked for help. Her friend remained inside, but the crowd only watched silently. Everyone pushed her away, not wanting to participate. For some reason, the beloved hero that Lucas spoke about just recently is nowhere to be seen. Kiram thought that this was perhaps the only thing that had not changed over time. At some point, it seemed as if a smile flashed across the face of the student, who was sobbing and begging for help. Lucas, although he dreamed of a quiet life, could not stand by when someone really needed help. Snatching a bottle of water from the hands of a random person, he sharply moved towards the hostel. When the hero does not appear, it is still worth leaving thoughts of calm and non-involvement. Not all people are selfish. Do not underestimate humanity. After dousing himself with water, he rushed into the burning building. Perhaps it's not too late, and the girl is okay. Since childhood, Lucas was not known for his courage. He considered himself rather weak. I tried not to get involved in unpleasant situations, pretending as much as possible that I didn't notice them. To the point that, having learned about Mino's affair with a guy from the university, Lucas tried not to notice it as much as possible, for fear of losing her. But today his patience ran out. He no longer wanted to ignore all the troubles happening in his life and around him. The students just continued to sit idle and film, and the chats became lively again with active comments. The girl who ran from person to person and begged for help for her friend clearly did not expect this help, and moreover, she was in a quiet rage. At that time, Lucas was rapidly climbing the stairs up to the floor where the person supposedly remained. In the corridor, flames came through from behind closed doors. Smoke covered the ceiling, but it was possible to get through. Lucas ran to the door and tried to open it. The handle became so hot that it burned his hand. Having endured the pain, he still turned it. The door was locked. Our hero did not know what to do now. He dared not to stand aside, but still could not do anything. While Lucas was punishing himself with his thoughts, the street became louder. Fire trucks had already arrived at the building, driven away the crowd, and were hastily making preparations to rescue the victims. Our hero apologized to Kiram for his loud words and asked for help, offering his body so that no one would get hurt. The divine spirit is too strong, unlike human souls. The more often a deity takes possession of a person's body, the more likely it is that the person's soul will simply disappear. Instead of giving away the body, it is better to borrow divine power while maintaining sanity, to become one. Now the door is not an obstacle for Lucas. He easily gets into the room. The firefighters see something fly out over the stretched rescue cloth. It must be a person. They need to catch him quickly. This is just a door that left many questions. There was no explosion. Lucas walked to the bathroom, in which a naked girl lay. Apparently she had lost consciousness from the smoke. This must be the same Nana whom the girl below so persistently begged to save. While our hero examined her appraisingly, she came to her senses. Lucas was confused, because she was without clothes, and such a beauty, and besides, he was looking at her in the bathroom. When Nana realized this, she became alarmed. How did this pervert even get here? Apparently, while losing consciousness, the girl did not realize that there was a fire in the dormitory. Everything around was filled with fire and smoke. Charred racks were burning, falling and breaking windows, knocking down furniture. Nana was very scared, but Lucas destroyed the cabinet, flying at her with one blow. She was amazed at the power, and couldn't understand why he didn't pay attention to the fact that his hand was burning. But it seemed like he wasn't harming him. Lucas took her in his arms. Nana felt admiration. What kind of wonderful savior came to her? Through a hole in the wall, they approached the edge. The girl was very afraid of heights. Was her hero really going to jump down? Of course, Lucas did it, because there was a lifeline below for them. Although with divine power, it wasn't that necessary. From shock, Nana lost consciousness again, and she was taken away by an ambulance that arrived at the scene with firefighters. When it was all over, Lucas freed Kiram's soul from his body. Our hero felt that due to the fact that his soul and body were weak, he easily succumbed to the influence of divine power, as if he had changed very much in a short time. The student, who had been worried about her friend all this time, came up to thank the savior. Something was really bothering her. She was squeezing her hand so hard it seemed like she was angry. But Lucas didn't pay attention to it. He only answered embarrassedly that he could not do otherwise. The student assured that he undoubtedly deserved gratitude, then ran away, giving him a bad look in parting. Although Lucas was too naive to notice, Kiram definitely noticed. Not just turned, but felt an evil aura. Perhaps this student is also possessed. It's impossible to say for sure, but most likely the spirit of a dove of envy. Lucas was familiar with the name, having often seen it in the Book of Mountains and Seas, an ancient Chinese treatise describing the real and mythical geography of China and neighboring lands and the creatures that lived there, as well as other books about spirits, most likely referring as a source to the first one, which Kiram was outraged by. Where can information about spirits, demons, and gods of heaven appear in human books? The only book where you can find out about them is the Encyclopedia of Monsters, written by Yank, which collected information about all 11,520 spirits, demons, and gods. Lucas wanted to know where to buy this encyclopedia, to which he received the answer that the book had long been lost. Taking a step back, our hero stepped on a book that had somehow fallen from the author's stand. Having apologized for damaging the goods and promising to buy it, Lucas decided to see what kind of book it was. This is the Yank Encyclopedia. What luck. But didn't Kiram say that it was lost? It was Yank himself who stood in front of them. It seems that during the Great Catastrophe, some lucky ones managed to save their bodies. And how did the most ancient god, existing since the creation of the world, become an ordinary merchant? Yank hasn't become a spirit, and he needs to eat. What a shock Kiram experienced when he learned that Yank sometimes launches streams for the sake of donations. Meanwhile, Lucas found a turtle dove of envy. Since the book is original, it can be safely trusted. Yank wasn't particularly good at drawing, but the content is much more important than the picture, isn't it? The turtle dove of envy inclines people to envy by using this feeling as food. The objects of envy chosen by the turtle dove will soon die due to the misfortunes it caused. It looks like Nana is still in danger, because her friend went to the hospital, it seems, to finish what she started. And our heroes must stop this. Lucas heard a familiar voice behind him. His old girlfriend, out of joy, jumped into his arms with a running start, because they had not seen each other for so long. It was obvious from our hero's reaction that this wasn't the first time Emma had jumped on him. Kiram mistook her for a guy, but Lucas explained why this guy has such large pectoral muscles. As it turned out, everyone already knew about his separation, and like a true friend she came to ease his suffering. And support, crazy about sports, to run 300 laps so that all sorrows would be forgotten, but Lucas could not appreciate him. But Kiram liked this attitude. Our hero could not resist dimming the fire that flared up from such speeches. He forgot that Emma cannot see the deity, but she can hear perfectly well what people say. Having come up with many important things on the fly, Lucas ran away from the awkward situation, and in the future, he should not be forgotten. Seeing that her dear friend was completely fine, Emma stopped worrying and ran away in the other direction. Lucas and Kiram went to the hospital to check if everything was okay with the rescued woman. At the door, our hero was worried. He didn't know how to communicate with girls at all, and in front of such charming ones he was completely lost. But when he heard a conversation between two friends outside the door, out of excitement he forgot about the awkwardness of the conversation. Opening the door, the first thing he looked at was Nana to see if she was okay. Standing between the girls, he asked the possessed woman to leave and let her talk to the patient. Having told Nana the whole truth and kept silent about the demonic descendants, Lucas stood absolutely pleased with himself. But apparently the girl did not want to believe such accusations. But how did Nana fall asleep in the bathroom? Or how to explain the fact that all the windows and doors were securely closed, and why her dear friend herself was not in the room during the fire? Nana couldn't believe it. What brazen accusations, she asked Lucas to leave. In response, he took a cup of tea left by the possessed woman next to the bed. He was sure that this tea was definitely another murder attempt, otherwise why all these pleasantries? Nana could not understand what kind of abnormal person was and how to react to such behavior. How can you take away tea from a sick person? While walking down the hospital corridor, Lucas spat something that looked like a small bug into his hand. Kiram frowned. Apparently he had met such underwater leeches more than once. They hide in the water. If one is swallowed, the flesh begins to fester and become covered with ulcers, changing the person beyond recognition. The victim would gladly prefer death to such a life. The turtle dove of envy wants Nana to die a painful death. She must not be allowed to succeed. While Kiram teased Lucas about whether his persistence had anything to do with his good looks, Turtle Dove stood around the corner. She already knew that Nana did not drink that tea. Out of impatience, she was ready for any action. Obsessed with envy, she could not calm her feelings. She invented many methods of murder. That same night, quietly sneaking into the hospital, she entered Nana's room. No longer worrying about secrecy, the possessed woman held a knife in her hands. Standing by the bed, she whispered her sick thoughts. This envy was about beauty, and the girl was impatient to leave many scars on her pretty face. Before she could do anything, Nana turned sharply and stopped her hand. What a strong grip. It wasn't a girl in the bed, it was Lucas, dressed in hospital pajamas and a woman's wig. The possessed woman, in a rage, tried to find out where he had hidden Nana. But our hero did not hide anyone. The patient only hid behind the curtain, wanting to get rid of doubts. There was no need to lie anymore. She saw the knife and heard impulsive screams. Nana didn't believe it until the very end, but agreed to this performance because the doctors found a sleeping pill in her blood that shouldn't be there. The possessed woman did not want Nana to die, just to disfigure her so that she would know how to steal other people's boyfriends. When Maya was not yet possessed, she and Nana were best friends, and she had a boyfriend, Marcus. Thinking that this love was real, Maya gave the guy her innocence. But while he was in the shower, a message came to the phone, an answer from Nana asking him not to write to her. Having opened the dialogue, she read how her lover confessed his love to her friend, and wrote that this relationship was only to be closer to true love, which plunged her into grief and anger. The dove of envy found her victim that evening. Not wanting to listen to apologies, Maya decided to let the demon out. Her hands began to look like huge bird paws with long, sharp claws, and her wings were like those of angels from fairy tales, only black. Before Nana had time to recover from such a transformation, she was already hanging over the city in the clutches of a monster. Flying higher, Maya simply abandoned her. No matter how, she wanted to quickly destroy her friend. Nana was helpless, experiencing wild horror. She almost accepted death. But almost at the top of the low buildings, Lucas picked her up in his arms and carefully laid her on the roof of the hospital. Fury grew in the turtle dove of envy. She did not understand where this devil had come from and began to ruin all her plans. Kiram doesn't like being called a devil, but he loves fried chicken. Maya flapped her wings, and bird feathers, sharp as blades, flew towards Lucas. It was quite close, but we managed to dodge. It's good that Turtle Dove was not aiming at Nana. It would have been difficult to protect the logo from such an attack. Such powers are not inherent in simple demonic souls. The demon must have killed quite a few people to obtain it. You need to decide how to fight the enemy high above the city while standing on the ground. Kiram had this ability. Since Lucas was one with the deity, he intuitively was able to understand how to master it. Having collected himself, he jumped so high that he saw the entire city. Then, descending a little lower, he hovered in the air. Soaring above the city, our hero felt confident and did not even experience tension or fear of heights. Although it was worth it, at the same moment, having lost control, he fell back onto the roof face down. It is naive to assume that an ordinary person will be able to use all the possibilities without putting in any effort in training. Such a sight amused the turtle dove. With such poor spiritification, it would not be difficult to fill the belly with spirit with a weak vessel. But she didn't rejoice for long. Even though the man didn't have much strength, he knew how to evade. But Kiram didn't consider him a weakling. He was amazed at how quickly Lucas mastered his techniques. It looks like this man is a real talent. There was nothing special about his agility. For a person who had been bullied by everyone since childhood, it was natural to understand different methods of escape. It turns out that Lucas's talent lies only in escape. The turtle dove is ready to test his talents. What will our hero do if the feathers do not fly at him? Nana was so scared that she couldn't get up. She just sat in place and watched as many shells flew at her. But Lucas managed to push her away and shield her, risking his life. Although the deity had already saved him from death, maybe he wasn't taking such a risk. As soon as he meets a beautiful girl, he immediately has damn bad luck. The turtle dove mocked such self-sacrifice, sycophancy, and nothing more. But could such a pitiful demon ever experience care in his life? How angry these words made the turtle dove. I accelerated downwards. She was preparing to throw as many feathers as she could. From close range, it should be difficult to dodge. At this time, Lucas realized that he could attack from a distance, which should be used if there was no way to reach the enemy. He gathered the flame in his hand. It condensed into a powerful fireball and flew straight towards the turtle dove. The feathers began to burn. It was already difficult to stay in the air. She was already much lower than before, which allowed Lucas to jump and hit with all his might, burning the enemy with divine fire. The turtle dove believed that the guy was possessed by a weak demonic soul, so she was going to simply absorb it. But now she understood that she was obviously unable to win. From the impact, she flew down so quickly that a clear trace of a strong fall remained on the concrete roof. Lucas moved in close, intent on sending the demon to hell where it belonged. But by doing this, the possessed girl to whom this body belongs will die, which the turtle dove wanted to use as protection. To which Lucas reacted coldly and said that he doesn't like people that much. It's not entirely clear whether this was the truth or some kind of trick. With a blow, he threw her closer to the edge of the roof and quickly headed there to continue. Nana ran up and grabbed his hand, begging him not to touch her friend. She couldn't hold a grudge, and she felt a little guilty for that incident. Fearing that the deity would actually kill her in a human body, the turtle dove decided to leave him as soon as possible. Although this harmed her further development, it was better than simply dying. The demonic soul, looking like a small gray lump, spun and took off, promising to get even. At that same moment, out of nowhere, a guy in a mask and with a large axe jumped out and cut down the turtle dove. Lucas and Nana were taken aback. He landed right in front of the two of them. It was not clear whose side he was on, or who at all. He held the soul of the dove of envy in his hand, wielding it like a trophy. Our hero was overcome by an incomprehensible anger. Threateningly, he ran up and grabbed the guy by the collar. Why such scenes? Because of the demonic soul. What does it matter who stops it? Since Lucas doesn't have the chance to deal with the turtle dove of envy, he decided to let off some steam on the guy in the mask. He, of course, doesn't mind at all. But with the current level of spiritual connection, our hero is unlikely to be able to continue. The stranger knew this well. He was very familiar with the peculiarities of using divine power. Lucas fell to his knees, blood flowing from his mouth. He could not understand what was happening to his body, because the turtle dove had never been able to seriously injure him. Nana was very frightened and did not know how she could help. She ran up and began to cry in confusion and try to find out what was happening. The stranger began to explain that because Lucas fought recklessly and excessively consumed the power of spiritification, fiery energy began to circulate randomly in his body, thereby bringing his end closer. Nana could not understand what he was trying to tell her and begged him to explain it in simpler language, and he compared it to a very strong fever. Consciousness may be affected, and in the worst case, he will simply die if the temperature is not brought down. After all, they are on the roof of the hospital. Nana decided that they could take him to the doctor. Although this is not a simple fever, medicine is unlikely to be able to help him. But at least something can save Lucas. You can't just let him die. It looks like the guy in the mask knows how to help, but he behaved either doubtfully or thoughtfully. He told Nana about the powers, but she could not understand everything. It is believed that just as darkness can flood light, so light can dispel darkness. The attribute of fiery energy in his body refers to light. If it is balanced with appropriate energy, then there is a high probability of achieving harmony, which can save him. Nana still couldn't understand anything and tried to get the most simplified answer possible. What should she do? To transfer the energy of the darkness of the feminine principle from mouth to mouth, which greatly shocked her. Like a sleeping princess, she had to kiss Lucas so that he would wake up. But quickly, he would not last long, and let this kiss be gratitude for everything he did for her. Although Lucas was unconscious, Nana was very embarrassed at this moment. She timidly touched his face with one hand and carefully pulled back his hair with the other. Gathering her courage, she finally kissed him. At first, Lucas showed no signs of life at all, but suddenly he pressed Nana tightly, not allowing her to leave, and began to kiss her passionately. What a pervert. The girl was indignant at such impudence. Jumping to the side, she showed her displeasure with all her appearance, which forced Lucas to make excuses, because the culprit was Kiram. He thus received dark energy from her, which she offered voluntarily. Nana raised her eyes in fear. She clearly saw a ghost in front of her. As she first thought, apparently by transferring her energy of darkness, Nana awakened her own spiritual energy, so she was able to see the deity. While discussing Nana's new abilities, the masked guy called Kiram by name, even though no one had introduced himself to him, so they know each other. In the modern era, meeting an ancient deity is very rare. It's time to introduce himself. Taking off his mask, the guy said his name, Leon. But under the mask there was no face, no head, from which Nana was already lying unconscious. Even after seeing the deity, she was ready to fall. And now, there's a guy without a head. Too many shocks in one evening for a weak girl. Leon suggested moving her to a more convenient place and continuing the conversation at his home. There are quite a few ways to merge with a spirit. One of them is to search for a descendant who is blood related to the spirit, and the other is to master a person through the weakness of his character. However, all this time, Leon existed inside a man named Thomas and slept soundly until his head mysteriously disappeared. And then the deity woke up and gained complete control over the body. Yes, Lucas had heard the rumors circulating around the university quite recently that there was a killer walking around the city, beheading his victims. Kiram was happy for his old friend, because if his host died, he gained full control and could use the corpse for his own purposes. He is then forced to crowd into the same body with Lucas, a useless dunce, although he could thank him. Leon interrupted their argument about who was more important, raised his hand and began to unbutton his sleeve button. A corpse remains a corpse, and no divine power can keep a dead body fresh forever until Thomas's head is found to resurrect. Nana came to her senses. She leaned out a little around the corner, not daring to come closer. After hearing the last part of the conversation, she wondered how Leon was going to revive the body if he had already been beheaded. The bearer of the divine soul will not die even if he is deprived of his head. But why is Nana talking from around the corner? So that the headless body would not terrify the girl, Leon decided that if she saw his face, she would not be so scared. Lucas and Nana watched in surprise as he undressed, and Kiram was only glad to see his old friend, who had not changed at all. Fear and horror disappeared from Nana's face. Now she experienced completely different emotions from what she saw. It was not at all frightening, but rather maddeningly ridiculous. Perhaps it was not entirely tactful. but Nana laughed out loud, so hard that it was impossible to stop the tears. Lucas also could not stop, although he was not scared. And in general, he was convinced that nothing could surprise him anymore, until the very moment he saw such an absurd sight. The students continued to laugh until Leon put on his jacket. They still gathered to discuss matters. On TV, on the news channel, they started talking about the killer. It looks like this is the one they need. The couple was found decapitated in the heart of the city park. The police are investigating, but have encountered difficulties. So everyone is asked to be careful and not leave the house late. In Nana's group, this topic was raised during classes, and students were asked about the same. All these incidents are not the work of human hands. Most likely, the demon in the body of the possessed needs people's heads for his incarnation into a monster. Lucas was upset by such news, and Kiram suggested that the demon was most likely small and weak. But Leon, investigating each incident, found traces of residual demonic power. And apparently, the killer is far from a weakling, so one cannot remain inactive. Otherwise, it is unknown what this could lead to. To the proposal to unite, Kiram responded with ridicule. The ancient god Leon himself suddenly began to worry about the fate of the human race. Why pretend to be a hero? Because he just wants his head back, and that's all. And in fact, he is not like Mrs. Ninel. He absolutely doesn't care whether the human race exists or not, just like Kiram. All you have to do is hurt him, and the offender would spend the rest of his life as a pile of ashes. As Leon noted, thousands of years have passed, and Kiram's ego is still immense. The patron god of fire is very strong, there is no doubt. But now he is simply a guardian spirit. The limits of the deity's power are determined by the potential of the descendant, relying on a weak, cowardly, and sluggish carrier. Only pitiful demons, like the turtle dove of envy, will be able to do so. Kiram's eyes lit up and he intends to spend the next few days training. But it seems his plans do not coincide with the plans of Lucas, who continues to insist on a simple, calm, human life. Kiram's face became more serious. If nothing is done, there will be no peaceful life. The possessed, by devouring their own kind, increase their strength, and they are unlikely to spare anyone for weakness. Moreover, if Kiram is consumed, without the support of divine fire, Lucas is unlikely to last long. If you want to live, you have to become stronger, and Lucas accepted this truth. The weekend was over, and the next morning all the students went to classes. After such a busy night, I really wanted to sleep. Lucas yawned so much while walking to the office that he could tear his mouth apart. Friend Finn came up to him to find out where he had been all night. He never returned to the room, but how to answer him. Entering the office, Lucas saw his ex-girlfriend with a new partner, Jerry. For a moment he was surprised, but watching them kiss in the back rows, his emotions turned out to be much colder than he expected. Yes, and this love was as if for show, Mino. To show that she was not at all excited, Jerry. To brag about what a beautiful girl he was now with. Finn will mention the tree of shame quite loudly. No one would stick their nose out after that. Jerry, like a real guy, took the side of his girlfriend. No one dares insult her. But saying this, Finn was of course ready to answer for his words, and offered to sort it out in the corridor. Lucas did not need protection, asking his friend not to pay attention. He compared Jerry to a mongrel who would be stupid to bite back, which made both Mino and her new boyfriend laughable in front of the whole group. To answer this is to expose yourself to greater ridicule. It is also difficult to remain silent. They were both hurt. Lucas gave off the impression of being an inexperienced fool. So why did he look so much more courageous now? The teacher entered the class, announcing the start of the lesson. Everyone became quiet and sat down in their seats. Our hero didn't listen. He thought about his feelings. Seeing Mino flirting with someone else, there was not an ounce of sadness or disappointment. Kiram, being connected with Lucas, knew all his thoughts, and began to insert his comments into them. All because of his acquaintance with a rare beauty. Lucas was embarrassed by such a dialogue. He forgot that the deity was always with him. And to himself he tried to justify that it was not because he fell in love with Nana. But there was no talk about Nana. It turns out our hero gave himself away. The class was interrupted by a knock on the door. All the students and the teacher turned to the exit, where a beautiful girl was standing. The guys could not hide their delight, and the girls were jealous of how she won all the male attention with her appearance. It was Nana. She really wanted to talk to Lucas, and asked him to leave for a short time. Just hearing this, everyone turned their heads in his direction, which stopped the arguments with Kiram inwardly. Gossip immediately spread among the students. The girls discussed what kind of beauty she was, and the guys didn't understand why she was calling Lucas, why she needed him, and what kind of relationship they were in. Such conversations led everyone to the same conclusion: Nana was his new girlfriend. And if so, maybe they left Mino after all. Why such a mess when there is a beauty? She wanted Jerry to protect her, but he himself was fascinated by Nana's beauty. Lucas left the office, leaving the whole group to continue guessing. He was even a little pleased. After asking what was needed from him, Lucas continued to yawn and comment on what a crazy night it had been. But how can one fall asleep here? And even from the moment of the kiss itself, strange phenomena continued to happen to Nana's body. The guys standing around the corner heard only a kiss. A crazy night. Something wrong with the body. It's not hard to guess what they were up to. Nana walked a little closer to Lucas and showed him the water she was holding floating above her palm. It is not clear why, but now she could control water. Just like our hero, Divine Fire. Lucas didn't understand how this could happen. But it was better to discuss such things in a more private setting, so as not to become the local weirdos. Kiram, of course, knew why this was happening. Everything. Because Nana's spiritual power had awakened, and the suffering spirit had already paid attention to it. Then the conversation continued in the university garden. There was not a soul around during classes. Nana and Lucas sat down at the table in front of Kiram, as if they had their own classes. Spiritual studies. Suffering spirits, without a vessel, can easily disappear. So they constantly follow bodies filled with spiritual power in the hope of preserving their lives. Nana was afraid that she would become possessed like her friend Maya, and then she would turn into a scary monster. It's in vain, because spirits, like people, can be good and evil. There are those who brazenly seize control over the body of their host, for example, the turtle dove of envy. And there are those, like Leon, who are trying in every possible way to revive the body of their vessel. However, it cannot be said that there is no way to resist if an evil demon tries to take over the body. Maya easily became possessed by the dove of envy because her spirit was weak and vicious, which is why she could not resist. In order to suppress the spirit sleeping inside, you need to train and strengthen your spiritual strength. Since ancient times, Kiram had 2 scrolls of special techniques, Will-o'-the-Wisp and Dark Water Protection. Each scroll has its own beginning, namely light and darkness. If a person decides to master these techniques on his own, then he will inevitably face death from sizzling heat or incredible cold. Lucas was already making up something about training together. His face turned red, as if he had received an offer to date. After talking a little more about training, they went to their offices. After the end of the school day, having gone to a quiet place, Lucas and Nana sat back to back and began to practice spiritual concentration. Being nearby, Kiram looked at the guys appraisingly, believing that his bearer did not particularly stand out for his abilities. But the girl, on the contrary, has considerable talent, and in such a short period of time she was able to make good progress. Looking tired, Lucas stopped his concentration and opened his eyes. Is this Kiram's training? The body feels tired, but there is absolutely no change. Water wears away stones. Where has it happened that on the very first day after training, people felt significant changes? But Nana did not experience fatigue, but a strange feeling, as if her body had become much lighter. Kiram sent the girl home to have a good rest, and ordered her to continue in the same spirit for 3 days without skipping a beat. Nana thanked the spiritual mentor and left. Tired Lucas was also about to go rest, but Kiram seemed to still have plans for him, saying that their training had just begun. Controlling divine fire requires great strength. It is not enough to improve the strength of the spirit. You also need to train the body. For an hour, Kiram taught Lucas martial arts. She practiced strikes and grabs, which was exhausting. Given the lack of lunch, severe hunger constantly distracted her and prevented her from getting ready. In addition, if it is necessary to strengthen the body, in the modern world there are special places for this. It is not necessary to run through the forest and invent challenges for yourself. Kiram has not yet seen modern gyms. Lucas decided to show him that in one building there are many rooms for various types of activities, and a swimming pool. A gym with exercise equipment for all muscle groups, and not under the scorching sun, but with working air conditioning. On the treadmill, Lucas saw his childhood friend Emma. There is nothing special about meeting her on the gym, but she was surprised. Has our recluse really decided to go in for sports? It's probably going to snow now. An unfamiliar guy approached them. Very embarrassed, he tried to start a conversation with Emma. Introducing himself as Leo, the head of the basketball club, he invited her to meet. His height was indeed impressive, and his girlfriend seemed to be quite popular among athletes. While Lucas watched everything touchingly, Emma took his arm and pressed closer, having responded to the proposal with the fact that she already has a boyfriend. And it seems that we are talking about our hero. Emma whispered in her ear about the old agreement, to pretend to be her boyfriend so that she could turn others off, so that Lucas would behave more naturally. To such a statement, Leo did not react quite adequately, grabbed his opponent by the collar and began to insult him in front of everyone. How could Emma choose him over such a weakling? But Lucas seemed happy to figure it out. The guys decided to spar in the ring, my friend, for obvious reasons. Did not believe in our hero's victory and tried to stop the guys. Having promised to put his opponent down with one left, Lucas did not listen anymore and silently went to prepare for the fight. Standing in the crowd of gathered spectators, Emma screamed in fear, causing our hero to sharply turn back. Leo, not waiting for the command to start the battle, jumped into the attack with a running start, but Lucas managed to dodge. For a while, without attacking in response, he continued to shorten reflexively, while Leo tried to provoke an attack in response with words. In fact, such quick strikes are becoming increasingly difficult to evade. You need to use the technique that Kiram taught him in training. Having caught the right moment, Lucas stood up and moved towards the enemy running towards him. A powerful uppercut hit him in the chest so that Leo was slightly lifted off the ground. As promised, victory with one blow. Emma could not even think that Lucas could fight. The crowd screamed enthusiastically about the defeat of the invincible champion of the hall. Our hero was proud of himself, finally winning on his own. The crowd around continued to discuss the fight and wonder what kind of monster knocked out the captain of the basketball team with one blow. After training, when it got dark outside, Emma and Lucas decided to have dinner together at an inexpensive restaurant. We ordered burgers, cola, and fries. Today everything is at Emma's expense. The girl undoubtedly raised the topic of sparring. She was very interested in when Lucas learned to fight like that, and why he didn't talk about it. Citing luck, he changed the topic to Emma. Why doesn't she want to date anyone? Pretending that he understood everything, he made a painful pause, which made the girl feel nervous. And then he asked if she didn't like girls. Emma was outraged by this statement. But it's just a joke. In fact, she already has someone she likes, so she won't accept someone else's feelings. While Lucas was jokingly mocking the fact that Emma, with her character, had an object of admiration, a man with an impressive aura passed very close behind the glass. The same aura that remained at crime scenes around beheaded victims. Lucas and Kiram immediately felt her, quickly saying goodbye to Emma. They ran out into the street, and the girl sank down on the table in frustration. What a fool, really couldn't understand such obvious feelings. Lucas ran down the street after the remnants of the demonic aura, and then they heard screams from the alley. This was probably the one they needed. Turning the corner, he saw two corpses, again a headless couple, and next to them stood the same girl in a raincoat who had walked past the restaurant. Believing that he had caught the criminal in the act, Lucas made it clear that he would not allow him to escape. The girl turned around. Who would have thought that she would be lucky enough to meet her brother? But no one intended to fraternize with her. Lucas joined forces with Kiram and rushed to the attack. Without particularly straining, she turned her whole body and looked at the approaching attack with mockery. Like last time, Lucas wanted to use the same blow that Kiram taught him in training. But before he could reach the enemy, he received a strong blow to the chest. Terrible pain, as if all the bones inside were broken. From such a blow, our hero flew into the wall. Satisfied with herself, the girl enjoyed an easy victory, even though they both use flame. But the difference in strength is colossal. But this difference is not in her favor. Lucas stood up and smiled, as if he had been slightly pushed, and the pain had long gone. Simple spirits cannot heal their vessel so quickly. What kind of power is this? Kiram showed his face. In the flames of the enemy he felt the power of an old acquaintance, Bifan. And he was right. Bifan also showed her face. A beautiful female image appeared before everyone, and just as stern. But at that very moment she was already happily hugging Kiram and telling how she missed him. Not expecting that even the master would have to turn into a spirit. There will be no continuation of the battle. Both deities seem to know each other well and are connected by a common past. Bifan is a divine beast, a follower of Kiram, who is convinced that she cannot be related to the bounty hunter. A golden-haired girl named Wood and her guardian spirit are part of a community of hunters of evil spirits. So in search of that crazy spirit they came to the crime scene, hoping to find clues. Among hunters, demons are regarded as trophies. When they win, they have every right to absorb the spiritual power of their prey in order to increase their level. But Lucas wasn't particularly interested in the hunter's business. He just wanted to find the killer beheading innocent people. Maybe we should join forces. The killer attacks only couples, and among them, at least one has a guardian spirit. And since they both have such guardians, by pretending to be lovers, they have every chance of attracting the attention of the demon thug. Without waiting for an answer, Wood made an appointment at the park at 7 p.m. the next day and said goodbye. What a determined girl. But anyway, you need to call the police first. The next day, Lucas came to the park for a fake date, as agreed, but Wood was late. While our hero stood waiting for her at the fountain, he discussed with Kiram whether he should trust them. He was 100% confident in Bifan, and, accordingly, in her vessel. And then their dialogue was interrupted by the appearance of Wood. She was talking and acting as if she had really seen her lover. Coming closer, the girl took his arm and pressed herself so close that Lucas was wildly embarrassed. Someone called out behind them, interrupting the scene of love. They both turned back. Nana stood in front of them. Disappointment was clearly visible on her face. She looked at them in bewilderment and wanted to find out what was going on. Was Lucas really dating this girl? Our hero was confused. He was in love with Nana and did not want her to understand everything wrong. But this has already happened. Wanting to enjoy the date, Nana turned around and left. Who is she anyway for Lucas to create scenes of jealousy? Wood pressed herself against the arm of her temporary boyfriend, asking who the girl was just talking to them. They were planning to spend the evening together. Lucas understood that he should not run after Nana. If they opened up now, then everything would be in vain. But he was very worried about her feelings. So be it. When the criminal is caught, he will definitely explain himself. But now they need to decide what they will do next with Wood. Of course, everything that is customary to do on dates is work for the companion, which she takes seriously. So the entire route is planned out. Taking a large portion of popcorn and 2 glasses of cola, the couple headed to the cinema, as is customary for young lovers. While watching an old romantic movie, Wood cried out loud. Lucas could have supported her. But this was not the first time he had seen the film, so he was not so generous with his emotions. The guardian spirits, tied to their vessels, also cried while watching. Kiram, of course, did not expect that the film could touch him. Afterwards, the couple headed to an expensive restaurant, Lucas feeling uncomfortable in casual clothes. And she couldn't afford something like that, which Wood asked not to worry about, because the hunters get good money and today the food is at her expense. Finally, the waiter brought the drinks, asking for forgiveness for the wait, and the guy handed a glass of champagne to the girl. As if on purpose, the waiter let go of the drink before Wood could catch it and spilled it on her. Again apologizing for his mistake, he began to clean up the spill and wanted to help the girl with the wet clothes, to which he received a polite refusal. Having entered the toilet, pleased with himself, the waiter looked in the mirror with a smile. The prey had fallen into his net. They went to the cinema, had dinner at a restaurant. Were they able to attract the attention of the killer? Walking along the sidewalk and chatting about future plans, Lucas saw an establishment with signs for lovers. Without thinking twice, our hero stopped Wood and offered to go inside. She raised her head up and made a questioning expression on her face. Looking up, he saw a sign for a love hotel. Of course, he did not want to offer something like that. But the imagination of a young student cannot be stopped. Lucas, out of embarrassment, began to joke delicate jokes. For the sake of business he could go, to which Wood grumbled and dragged him further down the street. To run into trouble, you need to go to a secluded place. The pseudo-couple turned into an alley. Looking around, neither Lucas nor Wood could feel even a drop of the aura of the possessed spirit. Had the killer taken the bait? Kiram decided to help make the bait even sweeter by pitting the couple against each other. Lucas almost fell on his companion, but rested his hand on the wall. Yes, it definitely looks more romantic. Standing in a deserted alley, a guy pins his girlfriend against the wall. Now according to the script, there should be hugs and kisses. Kiram and Bifan watched excitedly from the sidelines, waiting for the climax of the evening. A little further in the darkness, they heard the clink of a tin can. While walking, someone stumbled. The couple ran away in the hope that the criminal would finally show his face. But Nana was sitting on the ground in tears. It looked like she had fallen. When asked what she was doing here, the girl began to tell an obviously fictitious story about how she was walking in a dark alley at night and happened to be nearby. Lucas, considering that the killer would not appear, decided to offer to go to a more pleasant place to talk. At that moment, a man entered the alley, noting that he would no longer have the opportunity to talk, because they would all die here and now. The face and voice are quite familiar. This is the same waiter from the restaurant. When the possessed person pretends to be a person, he goes to work. And it is much easier to find prey when working with people. Wood did not listen further. The confession was enough. Being confident in her abilities, she gathered the power of fire into her fist and, accelerating, jumped at the enemy, preparing to strike. With a wave of his hand, the killer doused her with something slimy. The smell was reminiscent of the drink he spilled on her in the restaurant. Initially, it was a poison that had no effect on health, but acted on spiritual strength as a relaxant. Nana forgot about her jealousy and anger. Now she was filled with fear, and Lucas could not understand what the waiter had just done. Wood immediately fell exhausted, unable to even defend herself, let alone continue to fight. The killer sensed Bifan and was sure that by isolating her, the victims had no chance to defend themselves. Many snakes reached out to the poison-stricken prey from the slimy snake body of the possessed, but Lucas ran across, protecting Wood. It seems that the killer did not feel the presence of the second guardian spirit, but from great self-confidence he continued to feel relaxed. Lucas released Kiram's power. A fiery aura surrounded him. He would have to pay for the fact that he considered him a weakling. Demonic snakes, slimy creatures, but capable of creating a water shield that will stop any fire attack. But the divine fire is much more powerful than any attack of a minor demon, and the shield could not stop our hero. Quickly breaking through the defense, Lucas rushed straight towards the enemy and hit as hard as he could. The snake quickly flew into the wall. It seemed the battle was over. But no. From such a blow, the killer only realized that he would have to tinker. Usually he didn't come across couples where everyone had a guardian. He didn't even have to fight. The snake venom was enough. And is Lucas's guardian really equal in strength to Bifan? Then he will have to use the most powerful techniques. Seeing that the enemy was up to something, Wood tried to protect Nana as best she could in her condition. The snakes moved randomly around the possessed man, but their movements did not look like an attack. Then the bodies seemed to melt away, and only empty skin and clothes remained, as if after molting. Kiram is on edge, the enemy is out of sight and looks quite dangerous. Snake venom flew at Lucas, the same as at Wood, after which she fell exhausted. But now this is a completely different attack. This liquid is not poison, but the enemy himself, who has taken on his true appearance. His slug-like body is capable of taking any shape, entangling Lucas. The enemy is about to absorb him. Our hero was almost facing the end, but Kiram, ordering him to calm down, explained how to deal with this. Lucas fell silent, concentrating. He collected the power of fire in his body. The enemy did not expect anything good from such calmness before death. It seems his victim is not going to give up. The fire instantly burst out like an explosion, scattering the enemy's shapeless body in different directions. Everyone who was able to see the spiritual world could observe how a great force rushed into the sky like a pillar. Lucas once again surprised Kiram. At times he appears to be a hopeless weakling, but at other times he shows excellent potential and talent. The killer's main body looked very bad, turning into a piece of dirt. Very slowly recovering, it became possible to see the head. Lucas came closer, saw that he was moving, and picked him up like some kind of wet rag. The demon curled like an eel, and taking the form of a snake, slipped out of his hand and darted towards Nana. Wood, completely exhausted, made futile attempts to somehow protect the girl. Nana was so frightened and confused that it didn't even occur to her to run away. And it was unlikely that she would have succeeded. The snake, wriggling, avoided all the obstacles and dived into her body. What a beautiful body. So much spiritual energy. Hundreds of years of cultivation lost after Lucas's attack no longer seemed like such a big loss. What to do now with the killer? If you attack now, Nana will undoubtedly suffer. Kiram assures that there is only one way out, to kill the girl. If Lucas is not able to do this, let him leave this matter to him. But our hero is not ready to make such sacrifices. There must be another way to save her. But, unfortunately, the gods are not omnipotent, and Kiram takes control of the body by force. Having taken a couple of steps forward, he realizes that Lucas refuses to obey. He had the strength and will to resist. Our hero seems to show his talents only when he is seriously motivated. When the snake took over Nana's body, her own consciousness went somewhere much deeper, where she was not alone. The same beautiful girl who had external similarities was talking to her. It must be a spirit sleeping in the body of a descendant. This spirit is much stronger than the snake. When she woke up, she threw it out of her body and took over Nana. How long had she been sleeping? That some worthless demon had become so impudent and was causing disturbances in the human world. Kiram felt a familiar aura emanating from Guardian Nana. Who would have thought that they would meet again under such circumstances? In ancient times, before the great catastrophe, when Kiram still existed in his body, he sat under a tree and played a melody. The fiery bird on his shoulder, closing its eyes, enjoyed the pleasant sounds. The noise of the forest was interrupted by the splash of water. A little girl looked at him from the river. She did not feel a demonic aura at all, and she was not a deity. According to her, she had no family, no loved ones, and nowhere to go. Then Kiram extended his hand to her and invited her to travel the world with him. She was surprised at first, and then joyfully accepted the offer. Lucas, delighted that Nana would now live and that her guardian spirit was an old acquaintance of Kiram, ran to her. But the greetings that awaited him were not as warm as expected. The guardian took a stance and swung her ice mace, preparing to attack. Lucas barely dodged. Maybe she's not herself. Maybe she has memory loss. Why is she attacking? Isn't she a friend? Pausing for a moment, the guardian quietly spoke Kiram's name. Then she furiously shouted threats to crush, trample, destroy, and rushed to fulfill her promise. This was not the right time to explain, but Kiram had a great plan of action. Running wildly, Lucas could barely keep up with his guardian. Nana ran after, swinging her mace, so close that our hero felt the breeze on his back. Looks like Nana's guardian is quite clumsy. She tripped and fell unconscious. It is cut off in the same way as its vessel. Or maybe it has simply weakened, no matter how many owners the body has changed in a short time. The spiritual power is completely gone. Lucas and Kiram are safe for a while. Our hero came closer to check how Nana was feeling. He wanted to lift her from the ground, but someone from above calmed him down. She spent too much spiritual power on her first animation. She should rest. Yank is sitting on the edge of the roof. He called the spirit of Nana's guardian the name Angie. Kiram quickly flew up to him, apparently so that he would not continue to wag his tongue. It looks like Wood knows him. She ran up to find out what he was doing here, and also called Mr. Chairman. Lucas and Kiram were perplexed about which chairman. Yank jumped down. Taking out a small bottle from his pocket, he threw it into Wood's hands, saying that it was an antidote to the poison of the Snake of Dark Waters, and she should use it as soon as possible. Lucas asked to stop playing them. What kind of chairman is he? An ordinary trader who earns money on streams. But no, Mr. Yank was the chairman of the Council of Hunters of Evil Spirits, and he should be given due respect. The organization was created by several strong souls, and since there is no one who understands demons and gods better, it is not surprising that he received an invitation. Kiram became interested in whether he, one of the strongest gods, would really like to meet them even more than he. But due to the changes that have occurred in the world, even the pitiful snake of the dark waters was able to become more powerful. It is not surprising that there are other strong spirits. And by the way, the snake is trying to crawl away while they are all chatting there. Lucas lifted him from the ground like a string. The demon began to beg for mercy. Yank asked if he had the book of the Encyclopedia of Demons with him, which he took from his shop. He took the book, but what's the point of it? He's not particularly interested in the autograph, but the encyclopedia has a practical use. Demons are difficult to completely destroy, but you can seal it in a book and gradually gild it. Thus, the owner of the Encyclopedia of Demons and Gods will become stronger depending on the number of demons that he imprisons in the book. Lucas opened it to a page describing the serpents of dark waters, bringing the demon up, as if the book itself had sucked him in. Placing a spiritual seal is only possible if the enemy is defeated and weakened. After the sealing was completed, the snake demon turned into a clumsy drawing of Yank. Kiram and Lucas continued to evaluate his creativity. Such a big book. But what will happen if you fill every page of the encyclopedia with seals? The author, of course, took care of the reward. A personal photo album from a limited edition. Lots of different photos of costumes of different professions and characters. Here is a Neko, a nun, a sailor, and in a suit. Who needs such bad taste? But while they were discussing such nonsense, someone was watching them from the roof of the building. It looks like real fun will begin soon. There is one more thing. Since the hunters receive a monetary reward for the work performed, Lucas is entitled to half for his work with wood. Since the Snake of Dark Waters belongs to the 3rd rank, it is worth 200,000. So our hero received 100,000, which is even more than what he earns in a year. In fact, money is just a pleasant addition, a real reward for the captured spirit. The Demon Hunter Association is supported by a lot of influential people, merchants, politicians, stars. It is quite possible that each of them is a descendant of demons or gods. Lucas doesn't really care. What worries him more is what to do with Nana. After listening to many jokes about the unconscious girl, our hero ordered a taxi to the hostel. It's late. The door is of course already closed, but the light is on in the watchman's window. Approaching her, Lucas asked to let him in and put his drunken girlfriend to bed, to which he was refused. The woman has been working as a watchman for a long time. She doesn't believe in such stories. Many guys come up with different stories just to get into the women's wing. After hearing more jokes about the unconscious girl, Lucas received a napkin and a condom from the janitor. Then she simply drew the curtain. What a principled woman. But there is nothing to blame her for, because of the roaming students who are constantly figuring out how to get around the rules. Such a strict attitude has developed. Kiram began to examine the bag with curiosity. What kind of round thing was inside? Lucas blushed very much. He certainly did not want to explain what methods of contraception had been invented over the past time and how to use them. We need to leave Nana somewhere for the night. Don't leave her to sleep on the street. Our hero booked a room for the night in a nearby hotel and took the girl there. The impressions from the room are strange, but at the moment it is the only one available. Lucas laid Nana on the bed. The look of her tired and helpless was too attractive. Turning on her back, she muttered how hot she was. The guy couldn't control his vulgar thoughts when such a beautiful girl was lying in front of him. And Kiram was also tempting him to do various obscenities. Lucas decided to take a cool shower and take his mind off everything that had happened. Standing under the flowing water, he thought about demons and training, about the organization of hunters, about which he learned a lot today, about how ordinary life seemed to be further and further away. You need to stop stressing yourself out, take a shower and fall asleep, and in the morning explain to Nana how everything turned out this way. The girl woke up in an unfamiliar room from a terrible fever. It's hard to get used to the human body. Angie still owned Nana's mind. Taking off her outerwear, she headed to the bathroom towards the sound of water. Lucas had already turned off the tap and was drying his hair when he heard some sounds behind him. He turned back. Angie stood in front of him with a menacing look, and she was not at all embarrassed by the fact that he had not yet dressed. But our hero was very embarrassed by this. He squealed and diligently tried to hide as much as possible with a small towel. The possessed woman rushed at him with her fists, deciding to complete the murder she had promised Kiram. Lucas, dodging the hail of attacks, tried to jump out of the cramped room in which it was absolutely impossible to avoid this crazy woman. He managed to run out into a large room, but Angie was just as good at ranged attacks as she was at close ones. Having been hit in the head with a glass, our hero fell onto the bed. The girl loomed over him, not understanding why Kiram was so weak now. Killing him in this state made no sense. Lucas tried to say that he was a simple person, The deity was now asleep somewhere deep inside him and did not wake up. But Angie did not want to listen to pleas for mercy. She knew for sure that this was Kiram's vessel. That was enough. Suddenly her eyes went empty. The hand that intended to take his life simply fell away. Like the girl herself, her body must have not had enough rest, and her spiritual strength has faded, just like that time in the alley. She fell asleep, hugging Lucas tightly. Now it's better not to move. Who knows what else she'll do if you wake her up. So Lucas slept until the morning in a dangerous embrace, completely motionless, until Nana herself woke him up. How to stop the screaming and beating. Lucas didn't have time to wake up and calmly explain everything. But you can understand her friend. She doesn't remember anything from the very moment the snake took over her body. She also woke up in her underwear with a guy in a towel. But still, Nana heard his words that all this was a misunderstanding, and about the new guardian spirit. After the story with the turtle dove of envy, Nana was very afraid that her body would be taken over by a demon. Then she will turn into a monster. Her body will be partially covered with feathers, wings and claws will grow, and being possessed, she can harm people dear to herself. Kiram reassured Nana. Angie, of course, is still a little thing, but not like that fallen spirit that captured an envious friend. She can safely be considered his protector in spirit. But if she is so good, why does she always go on the attack as soon as she comes to her senses? The reasons for this behavior lie in a common past with Kiram. The relationship between these two is complex, but he is not going to tell the details yet. All this is not as important now as time. A little more, and the student will be late for her classes. Hastily getting ready, Lucas and Nana said goodbye at the exit of the hotel. An acquaintance saw them by chance, hid in the bushes and took out his phone. He took pictures, muttering what a sensation it would be. And Kiram drives Lucas to training, because if not for Angie, the snake would have managed to escape, due to the fact that he was not strong enough to defeat him right away. But the hostel is now full of people. And if you go to the mountains, at this time you can stumble upon unwanted fellow travelers. It is difficult to find a secluded place. Of course, Lucas received a lot of money. Why bother if you can rent an apartment? Among the many advertisements, they found a pretty decent place to live, but the price was suspiciously low. But it's worth seeing it live and talking to a realtor about this. Perhaps the reason is not so serious. The renovation of the apartment is amazing. The location is beautiful. The yard and entrance look clean and updated. Lucas did not find a single reason to refuse to rent. Having firmly decided, he asked the realtor for an agreement to sign. To avoid bureaucratic problems in the future, the man himself named the reason for the low cost. All the residents are fleeing the house, saying that there is a ghost here. Our hero was only happy about this news. The ghost himself followed him, so it no longer scares him. There was a sound as if someone had slipped behind the sofa. The realtor ran out of the room in horror. It looks like he himself is afraid to be here. Everyone has been warned, so it is better if the documents are signed in the office. In fact, the apartment has been empty for quite a long time. Layers of dust have accumulated everywhere. But our hero is replete with spiritual power. Ordinary ghosts will not be able to even get close to him. For the next few hours, the great deity fussed with Lucas like a parent forcing his child to do homework. After completing the training, he felt as if his strength had increased a little. His skill had reached the 3rd rank. Apparently the battle with the snake had really benefited him. But despite this, his strength was only 1/10,000th of what Kiram had during life. Lucas got up and went to the bathroom to wash his face and brush his teeth before going to bed. Having opened the tap, he saw that instead of water, blood was flowing. But some kind of blood was not real. The ghost showed itself and was trying to scare with similar tricks. And that's all he can do. To scare Lucas, he needs to come up with something worse. Nothing else happened in the bathroom. But when our hero left the room, the TV turned on. There was only static on the screen. A girl slowly crawled out of it, pale as a drowned woman, with long black hair like in horror films. Lucas walked over and stepped on her face, pushing her back to where she crawled from. The ghost needs to get creative. Desperate, she began to attack ineptly. It was obvious that she did not know how to fight. She could not hit even once. Deftly moving the ghost's arm, Lucas pushed her face right into the floor. Now we'll find out who she really is. But the girl grabbed her forehead and burst into tears, which made our hero confused. Is this the same ghost that scares all the residents? She is not a ghost, but a spiritual entity, and is completely harmless. All objects have their own soul, and under certain circumstances, each object can embody its own soul. Then why, instead of developing like any other spiritual entity, does it scare people who come here for days on end? In order for such creatures to evolve, they need to be close to their spiritual vessel. And she could not fulfill this condition because her vessel was stolen. Kiram offered help to the lost spirit. The girl was delighted. Would the great god really help return the stolen item? But the help offered was not at all what was expected. An offer to incinerate the tormented creature with the flame of sacred fire. Lucas calmed the frightened girl. Kiram is such a joker, but what kind of demon stole her vessel? His name is the Greedy Cat. He loves to collect various valuable things, among which there are quite a few spiritual vessels that embody the spiritual essence. It is decided that our hero and his guardian will defeat the demon and return what was stolen. And if they seal the cat in a book, they will probably become even stronger. Lucas, who generally renounced divine fire, seems to have gotten the hang of it, justifying himself by saying that he had recently mastered the 3rd level and wanted to try it out in action. The ghost knew where the cat thief was and took his saviors there. Approaching the mountains, you can feel the demonic aura of the person being pursued. His hideout must be somewhere nearby where wild cats usually live. What should it look like? Cave. Greedy cats leave their shelter only when they go in search of new treasures. The rest of the time they spend next to their wealth. Carefully approaching the entrance, Lucas decided that it would be better if the spiritual entity waited for them outside. Candles made from the fat of fish, and people are lit on the walls of the cave. Someone actually lives here. Having walked to the end, they saw a shadow falling on the wall from around the bend. It looked like it was a greedy cat. It looked fierce. The demon, small as a child, sat surrounded by gold and various antique items, diligently rubbing an old bottle. Lucas demanded the return of the stolen goods. The greedy cat turned questioningly to see who dared to break into his lair. But these treasures initially had no owners, so it cannot be said that they were stolen, and people are not able to appreciate the full value of each trinket. Giving them something is the same as breaking it. Seeing that Lucas intended to take the priceless treasures by force, the cat prepared to defend them with all his might, jumping on all fours, his tails lengthening, and like whips randomly began to whip everything around. Weren't there only 2 of them? The speed of the attacks is so fast that after-images appear around, giving the impression of hundreds of attacks in an instant. How fast impacts with such acceleration are quite dangerous. If not for the divine fire, a person would not be able to survive such a thing. The greedy cat, pleased with himself, began to make a victory speech, ready to spare in exchange for treasure. But it was too early to rejoice over a couple of hits. Lucas, having gotten used to it, was able to keep up with them and catch them. 2 tails are not enough to fight with God. Lucas burned them with his flame, which quickly spread through the fur. And then, as if by a thread, he threw the cat into the mountain of priceless riches. There was no point in celebrating the victory too early. Now he's lying there and smells like a burnt cat, and Kiram is spinning around and admiring the results of his training. Apparently, the demon and Lucas greatly underestimate each other. The greedy cat stood up, and the image of a child replaced the image of an adult woman. She was very angry about the broken things, obtained with such difficulty, and her tails were singed. But our hero was more surprised that it was a girl, and not a guy. The demon tore the tails from his body and took them in his hand as a weapon, delivering the same blows as last time, but the speed increased, and the strength became much weaker. It didn't even hurt much. The greedy cat can not only collect spiritual treasures, but also use them. Now, it will be more difficult to defeat her. The golden whip is not intended for attacks. Its true ability is to turn the surface it hits into gold. This means that very soon Lucas will turn into a golden man. A so-called spiritual treasure is an item created from a large amount of blood and spiritual energy. And usually each such treasure has its own unique magical property. This cat was able to create her own spiritual treasure. And perhaps it's worth just cutting off her hands so that this golden infection does not spread. If Lucas trains hard, he will be able to grow new ones in 70 to 80 years with the help of divine power. It seems that Kiram is not aware of the duration of human life, and if they stand chattering, it will become even shorter. The greedy cat can't wait to make Lucas the crown of his collection. He needs to get more to speed up the transformation. While the demon is waving his golden whip, our hero will not be able to get closer. And by the way, if she has a spiritual treasure, then the most ancient deity should have one, right? Of course there is, and his name is Banye. But Kiram hasn't seen him since he sealed himself, and who knows where to look after all this time. What impudence, to underestimate the enemy so much and allow yourself to chat with the guardian about life during the battle. While Lucas was distracted by conversations, the greedy cat ran behind him and caught his left leg with her tails. Swinging, she launched it into flight, and with her body our hero broke through the wall. It looks like the cave is not so simple, and has many hidden passages to various secret rooms. Despite the fact that the demoness herself launched Lucas into her armory, she did not blame herself for its destruction. A metal flail fell from the shelves onto the head of the greedy cat. Is she trying to kill our hero, or herself? Lucas felt for a knife with his hand, and immediately launched it at the enemy. He does not own a throwing weapon, but what else is left will suddenly be lucky. She resists like a mouse driven into a corner. The cat never harmed anyone. She only collected abandoned trinkets. Lucas himself broke into her home and attacked. He himself came for his death. The cat wrapped its tails around him, and gold gradually covered his body, without even using half his strength. While Kiram felt a very familiar aura in the armory, his spiritual weapon was somewhere nearby. Rushing around, he tried to find it quickly. Together with Bannier, they would do this cat in no time. Lucas closed his eyes and concentrated, trying to release at least some strength to free himself. He tried to feel the weapon and asked for help, and Bannier heard him, took off from his place. He flew straight into the hands of the new lord of the divine flame. Lucas swung his halberd, cutting off the tails binding him. Everything was filled with fire. The gold that had grown on his body melted in glass onto the stones. Now he was completely free. His body was filled with energy, which was not constrained by anything, as if there had been no battle. Even more, he felt much stronger. How is this possible? The tails were simply cut off. This is the same halberd that the cat found in the forest about 30 years ago. It seems that Bannier accepted Lucas as his new master, and put all the power at his full disposal. The cat realized that she had lost, and began to ask him to spare her. After all, she had played a little more. The divine spirit weapon's attack is impressive, as if a volcano had erupted. The spiritual entity that was waiting for their return watched from the side what a powerful spiritual force was rushing through the mountain. Surprisingly, the greedy cat survived, although he is no longer able to continue the fight. Lucas brought the halberd to the neck of the defeated woman. She, of course, was not one of the cowardly ones. But now she understood who was in charge here. The demon turned into a little kitten and begged for mercy. She was only looking for magical curiosities and did not lay a finger on people, promising to listen and obey in everything. Kiram noticed that she didn't give off an evil aura. Most likely, the cat really didn't do anything wrong. Well, their new apartment doesn't have enough of a pet to make it completely cozy, and Lucas gave his new cat a not very original nickname, Kotya. And the treasures that she has collected need to be returned to their rightful owners. That's the right thing to do. But there are so many of them that it's impossible to manage at once. Kotya handed Lucas one of her magical wonders, a ring called Sumi. Inanimate things can be placed in it, and the stronger its owner, the more things can be put in it. Lucas's strength was enough to take away absolutely everything. And at that very moment, an earthquake began. As it turned out, the greedy cat was holding back the mountain with his spiritual power. And since it was all spent in the battle, it was better for them to run away as quickly as possible. There was a collapse, and Lucas did not have time to run out of the cave. Fragments of memories remained. Someone saved him from the collapse, and was there all the time. Lucas lay on the soft chest, and then passed out again. I woke up in the hospital. Thanks to divine power, my body had almost recovered and did not experience severe pain. Emma, who was sitting next to him, was very happy that he had finally woken up and was interested in his condition. Why is she here, and everything is quite strange? Lucas remembers exactly that he was buried under the mountain quite deep in a cave. And that's right. Emma was on an evening jog when she heard a strong roar, running towards the noise. She found a friend under the rubble of stones and immediately called an ambulance. But why run to the mountains at night? And Lucas himself forgot something in the mountains at night. And he began to come up with excuses about the sudden desire to take a walk in nature. Who would have thought that this would happen? Well, all's well that ends well. Emma put her hand on his shoulder and pressed her head to his chest. It looks like these memories are of her. Lucas lying unconscious in her arms. Or maybe it's still just a dream. I don't think about anything obscene. Our hero pressed himself to his chest and began to mutter that the sensations were the same. At such an inopportune moment, Wood and Nana entered the room. They came to visit their sick friend. Seeing such an indecent scene, it seemed that Lucas was beside himself with pleasure. What are they doing here? Everything is not at all what it looks like. Our hero introduced his childhood friend. And he would not take advantage of her kindness. Emma emphasized that he would never like a tomboy like her. Wood was well versed in such matters. With such a face, you just need to add a little makeup. And what a figure, not the slightest hint of fat. Did they all really come to see Lucas? It seems that everything is not quite right. Nana came to remind us about the planned joint training, and Wood came to offer a job. A task turned up with a good reward, as well as difficulty, and help would not hurt. But if Lucas doesn't help with training, then Nana will completely lose control of her guardian spirit, which Wood doesn't agree with. Who is he to constantly follow her around? Emma didn't understand what kind of training and tasks they were doing. Lucas presented them as crazy otakus. That's why they were saying strange things. The time has come to choose. Nana seems to be furious, and Wood has no desire to refuse. It doesn't matter who our hero chooses, the other one will still be offended. It's time to use the brotherly oath, not just for Emma to kick off men. And they said that they had already signed up for one group for her club's event, and if he didn't come, he would greatly let Emma down. The reasons sounded quite convincing, but next time it's better not to skip training. Wood invited Emma for coffee and suggested they become friends. The girls seemed to get along well with each other and decided to leave the patient and go about their girlish business. Kiram was proud of himself. After his appearance, beauties began to constantly revolve around Lucas. Such a charmer and a heartthrob. By the way, doesn't he remember what happened yesterday? But the keeper fell asleep as soon as his vessel lost consciousness. Through the open window, Katya jumped into the room, saying that a descendant of some spirit had saved him from under the rubble. But the demon cannot say anything more. While she dug her way to the surface, they had already been taken somewhere. Is Emma really that same descendant? But Kira most likely would have immediately felt the presence of a guardian spirit in her. But he didn't notice the sleeping Angie, even though they crossed paths with Nana so many times even before they learned about her abilities. But let's leave it out. Where did the spiritual essence disappear? Whose object they came to look for from Kochi? As soon as we remembered her, she appeared straight from the ring in which all the wealth was stored. While Lucas lay in his hospital bed, among the treasures, the spirit was finally able to find its spiritual vessel. Our hero found it funny. It turns out that her vessel is an ordinary scratcher, similar to an antique one. This is a jade anaruba, and everyone will know that it was used by girls of the imperial family. But why isn't it a scratcher? The nurses stood outside the door and tried to decide what to do with a patient who was talking to himself. Send him to a psychiatrist or for tests. The next day, as agreed, Lucas went to the mountain for Emma's club event. My friend was never late, but today she disappeared. It's not even clear whether she should worry about this. Lucas continued to wait. Everyone around was almost ready to move out, and finally she came up and asked how long he had been standing. He turned around irritably, but saw Emma in a rather unusual feminine form. Wood persuaded her to get hair extensions and said that she wanted to help her change her image, most likely seeing her attraction to Lucas. An announcement was made before preparing for the start. Groups of 3 people must gather. You cannot leave the route. The group that gets to the top of the mountain first will win. But while Wood filled Emma's head with various girly beauty secrets, she completely forgot about the groups. A man approached them, wanting to join if the place was not occupied, and if they both did not mind. They already know each other. The same captain of the basketball club, Leo, Lucas's sparring partner from the gym. Emma and Lucas were standing before the start, realizing that their team was missing one person to take part in the climb up the mountain, when a guy approached them and asked to join. The girl remembered where she could already see him, the same captain of the basketball club, Leo, whom Lucas knocked out with one blow. Our hero immediately thought that something was wrong here. He must have come to avenge that defeat. And if he needed a rematch, then he would get it. There was just the right amount of strength in that blow. Leo still feels it. But recognizing the loss, he suggested that it would be better to form a group and leave all disagreements in the past. You can't tell by his appearance that he is trying to deceive them. Is he really saying this seriously, and there is no need to be afraid that somewhere in the mountains alone he has selfish goals? Lucas and Leo shook hands. The team was formed. With this composition, they will definitely be able to take first place. Having set off along the route, Emma energetically walked ahead of the guys, while at the same time managing to enjoy the scenery. Leo behaved adequately, and the rest of the team stopped looking at him with suspicion and expecting a stab in the back. Lucas did not take his eyes off his girlfriend. Before, he always perceived her as a tomboy. But in the new image, he was able to notice how beautiful she really was. After drinking the water, Emma handed the bottle to Lucas, which made him very confused as to whether this would be considered an indirect kiss. I found something to think about. How many people are friends? They drink so much from one bottle. But today I don't feel like myself next to her. Leo doubted the sincerity of their statement. Maybe they weren't actually dating each other. Emma and Lucas quickly approached each other. Why such thoughts? They are so close. But this closeness still looks more like friendship than a romantic relationship, which our hero agreed with. After talking about this, the girl became upset and lowered her head. Lucas, not understanding what could have hurt her, tried to find out what was wrong. Raising her head with a sad smile, Emma said that she was hungry and went into the forest to collect brushwood for the fire to cook food. Lucas wanted to keep company, but her friend asked to leave her alone. Having retreated to a secluded place, the girl kicked the tree, cursing what a fool our hero is. How can he even say something like that after she saved him with such difficulty? Meanwhile, Lucas was sitting wondering what it was. Emma seemed not to be herself today. And who would even understand these women? Leo broke the silence, talking about how jealous he was that our hero was able to become Emma's boyfriend. Because she walks around so joyful all the time, like a miniature sun at the gym. Previously, Leo had always been weak, but when he saw Emma performing at competitions, he immediately decided to change himself. Naively believing that if he could become strong enough, Emma would accept his feelings. However, at that moment he had no idea that she already had a boyfriend. You won't be nice by force, but strength can be useful in other ways. Leo asked Lucas if he could do him a favor. Kiram tensed at this tone. You need to be careful. Something is wrong. Leo's hand grew before his eyes, became the size of an adult's body. It seems that strength can be useful not only in love, but also in revenge. And the request he wanted to ask was to die. Out of surprise, Lucas did not have time to react to a rather strong blow, from which he flew to the side. It will not be possible to retreat. There is a cliff behind. You will have to respond in kind. and it seems that after the last meeting the enemy's body was possessed by a demon, which is very dangerous for Emma. We need to figure it out here and now, otherwise it is not known what else this possessed person is capable of. Lucas ran in the other direction. Perhaps he did not want to attack head-on. Emma just came out of the forest, seeing the demon. She missed the collected brushwood. Where is Lucas? Leo said that he slammed his opponent, and all because he was much weaker than him. Emma ran to look for her friend, but the demon grabbed her with his huge palm, demonstrating his strength and superiority. He tried his luck again and proposed to meet. Seeing Leo holding his girlfriend tightly, Lucas decided to attack by jumping from the rocks above. Emma was glad that he was okay. But this joy did not last as long as she would have liked. Lucas, in flight, asked the monster to die. The same one, abandoning the girl, sent our hero flying again. It seems Leo was angry that they dared to call him a monster. Having caught the halberd on the descent, Lucas managed not to fly down. What a powerful force. But the emanating demonic aura was not felt from the enemy at all. The fact that our hero did not die so quickly pleased Leo, because this would give him the opportunity to show his true strength. And he called upon his guardian spirit, the divine spirit of the Rhine, which is quite strange. How can one be possessed by a deity? But Leo is not possessed at all. In order to destroy Lucas, he decided to borrow a little power. Rain obeys his master and immediately goes on the attack, crushing the ground with his weapon. Kiram realized from the very beginning that something was wrong. Not feeling the demonic aura, he needed to be more careful with such an opponent. Swinging his halberd, Lucas surrounded himself with a shield of incinerating flame. Taking a running start, he jumped on Leo, confident in himself since the bulky opponent was moving too slowly. But despite this, Rain easily stopped the attack with brute force, the metal crunching from the impact and sparks flying. This fight is not like the previous ones. The power of the receivers of divine spirits is completely different from the demons that Lucas fought before. The power of the deity Rain is not only brute strength and increasing his arm, he gave Leo the ability to change the size of his body and turn into a giant. What surprised our hero, to put it mildly, was that before this, those possessed by demons only grew wings or horns, and then a real giant appeared in front of him, and he promises that he won't leave a wet spot for Lucas. The battle axe has also increased in size, with one blow making it seem as if a mountain would break into many pieces. People nearby were dizzy in fear. What should they do if it was an earthquake? But the giant didn't think about anyone except Lucas. He didn't have a calm life. There was no need to take his girlfriend away. Now he'll have to pay. But don't forget that our hero can also fly, which will allow him to hit not only his toes. Jumping up to Leo's head, Lucas hit him in the neck with a roundhouse. It hurt, but the giant's neck is too big. Our hero circled around like a midge and cut thick skin with a burning halberd, although the enemy became stronger from such growth. But the speed decreased significantly. But Lucas was full of strength, and Leo fell to his knee from minor but numerous wounds. It is not surprising that the monkey deity Louis was able to deal with Rain so easily in the distant past. "I've found something to remember," Leo screamed, but not from horror. It was the roar of a giant. Lucas thought his head was about to burst and grabbed his ears in confusion. Taking advantage of the favorable moment, the enemy grabbed our hero. According to him, he actually wanted to make friends with Lucas. It's a pity that he turned out to be Emma's boyfriend. He couldn't let anyone else love her. The girl, trying to stop what was happening, shouted the whole truth and emphasized that whether she was free or not, Leo was still disgusting to her. What did not calm him down at all was to stage such a performance for the sake of refusal. And the giant directed his anger at Emma. But Lucas managed to shield his friend from the blow with his body. If you love someone, don't you want to see this person happy? Leo's feelings cannot be called love. So be it. The giant swung his big fist at the couple. Let them both die and do whatever they want in hell. From behind Lucas, something equally powerful flew at Leo, the fist of another giant. Emma also increased in size and effortlessly beat the inadequate admirer. It turns out that Lucas was right. His childhood friend is the descendant of the deity who saved him. Our hero doesn't waste time. It's better to understand everything later, and dealt the exhausted Leo the decisive blow. The giant fell to the ground, returning to human size again. With this problem resolved for a while, Leo lies on the ground unconscious, and Lucas goes to his friend to find out what happened. She trampled in fear, which was noticeable given her size. And after she sat down, this giant was not at all as slow as Leo. The mountain shook. Emma is very embarrassed because she is standing quite openly and cannot hide due to her size. Lucas noticed, which was hard not to, that she should move more slowly. In such a huge form, Emma was not quite able to control her movements. She should accept her normal state, and then talk calmly. The girl released the guardian spirit. Her body took on its natural size. Looking at her, Lucas became all embarrassed, shy, began to mumble and stutter, trying to say something. Emma never wanted to deceive anyone. As soon as she began to make excuses, Lucas managed to pull himself together. Closing his eyes, he told the girl that she had no clothes at all after shrinking. This was always the case after such transformations. It was good that our hero took a change of clothes with him on the hike. Turning away from Emma so as not to further embarrass her, Lucas took his replacement kit out of his bag and handed it to her. While she was changing clothes, the guys could not pretend that nothing had happened and talked a little about what they saw. The girl got dressed, but going out to the guys is still tense and awkward. Lucas decided to introduce her to his guardian spirit and find out since when she has been hiding about it. Emma's deity's name is Robin. Does Lucas remember when his girlfriend disappeared for a whole month in high school? In fact, at that time she was suffering from a serious illness, from which all her organs were weakening. And it was then that she met Robin. The deity appeared before her, offering to become her vessel and cheat death. Lucas remembers this moment. Now it's clear why Emma got into sports and moved to a class with a sports bias. But Robin has nothing to do with it, all for the sake of a guy who seems to really like energetic girls. This cannot be said openly, Emma, embarrassed, closed Robin's mouth. All this is not to please someone, but to enter a sports university. Kiram slowed down all conversations. He had known a deity named Robin for a long time, and he looked like a healthy, muscular man. But in front of them was a girl. The Robin clan does not consist of only one person. The one Kiram is talking about must be the head of the clan, or someone against the girls. If Emma had not increased in size that day, then these super cool firemen would have remained under the rubble. Waking up in the hospital, Lucas thought that the memory of him lying on someone's chest was just a dream, but it came out. Emma was very embarrassed. Our hero was seriously injured, and this was the only way to put him down permanently. She ran into Robin's arms. I hope that she will support her. How can she get married after this? While Leo lay unconscious, the god Rain appeared. What kind of bastard dared to raise a hand against him? The fire god Kiram and the goddess of the giant clan Robin did not have to wait long for an answer. For some reason they don't remember a deity named Rain. There must be some small god. But in fact he is only not so great in comparison with them. To requests for mercy, Kiram and Robin reacted unfriendly. As you can give birth to ordinary people, behavior that is not worthy of such a status. But Rain's soul is in turmoil. He himself cannot understand what happened. 1,000 years ago, after everything in existence was destroyed, his body was no exception, and he continued to wander the world as a crippled, disembodied spirit. Suddenly his soul was grabbed by something unknown, and from that very moment there were no more memories. And when consciousness returned, he saw all this. Kiram has heard about such magic that can control spiritual entities, but I've never personally encountered it. Once you find Yank. Lucas asked Emma to take care of Leo while he and Kiram tried to help the confused deity. Having contacted Yank, they found out in which area of the city he could be found. We even received a geolocation with the location of the demon hunter community. But of course, they expected the place to be more secluded, and they painted the association's sign right above the entrance to some cafe. Isn't that too flashy? After they walked inside, they were greeted by Yank dressed as a cute waitress. Isn't this the center of a serious organization? A maid cafe is an excellent disguise to divert attention. So Yank serves ordinary visitors in his free time, a rather profitable business. And the association's sign is seen only by owners of guardian spirits, while ordinary people see a cute cafe sign. After leading Lucas through the entire establishment, Yank led him to the farthest closed room, where is the main branch of the Possessed Hunters Association located. Without having time to really show what and where he was, Yank went to serve the new visitors to the cafe. You can't tell from him at all that he is an ancient divine beast. Walking between the tables, Lucas came across a monitor that displayed the ranking of spirit hunters. At the 79th place, they saw a familiar face. Who knew Wood was so cool? Our hero decided to use the system and see if there was information about him. Place 9,527. He certainly didn't expect a high place, but he couldn't think that it would be so low. But for Kiram, this is no good. In any case, this car is broken. A man came up from behind and asked to get out of the way. Lucas politely let a beautiful girl through. She looks cute and fragile, red eyes and a lollipop in her teeth. Everyone immediately turned around, as if he had said something terrible. She seemed really annoyed that Lucas called her a girl. Opening her outerwear, she asked to look at her male body. Lucas and Kiram's eyes were immediately drawn to the obvious female breasts. The girl was very embarrassed. Why stare like that? She's a man. She reacted aggressively to the statement that the body was clearly female. There were other fools who called her that, and it only took a couple of hard blows to convince them. Lucas didn't even try to dodge the blow. He caught his fist in the moment, and then he threw her over his shoulder. Maybe this would cool her down and come to her senses. But near the ground, the girl twisted herself, jumped away and landed on her feet. It seems Lucas is not such a weakling as the rest of his predecessors. But this does not cancel the conflict. Both are ready to teach each other a lesson. People around began to whisper. The newcomer decided to fight him. He must really be a fearless guy. Everyone began to wonder what kind of guardian spirit he had. It must be one of the fire deities. The fight continued on equal terms, but at some point Lucas stopped the blow. "You cannot hit a girl in the chest," because of which he opened up and missed the shot, after which he decided to call it a day. Clutching hands, they flared and came face to face. The girl grabbed him tighter and then pulled out another pair of hands from behind his back. She pressed our hero to the floor with all her strength. Although it was not possible to convince Lucas by force, now he understands who is the eldest here. Wood suddenly appeared, bending down to ask Mr. Neji for mercy. Neza is a masculine god. Why does this guy look so much like a girl? Which made the girl, who was a guy at heart, get turned on again, and Wood began to calm her down again. Yank returned from the visitors. He had only to leave for a while, and then everyone had time to fight. Having learned the reason for the disagreement, he explained to Lucas that in front of him was actually Mr. Neja, a guy. During a catastrophe thousands of years ago, the deities who lost their bodies settled in the human world as souls. But Neja is different. He emerged from a lotus flower. Therefore, by placing his soul again inside the lotus, he was able to be reborn. But during his reincarnation something went wrong, and his body began to look more like a woman's. Poor Neja is definitely a man who is unwittingly burdened with living in a woman's body. It's sad, but Yank in such an outfit is just a cutie. Nothing can be done. Everyone around him acted like his fans, shouting that he was the best. Lucas decided to apologize to Neja for such a misunderstanding, and promised not to call him a girl anymore. But their dispute with Kiram continued about which of them was the greater and main god. Everyone around, having heard that the novice's guardian was the great god of fire, had now surrounded Lucas. Yank helped him get out of the crowd of fans. That is, he has such a skill. Every time some eminent deity appears in the association, a bacchanalia immediately begins. Yank's office looks like a place of narcissism. The walls are covered with posters, and the shelves are lined with figurines. Every time they enter the room, Wood and Neja also feel uneasy. It's time to talk about why Lucas was looking for Yank. After hearing Rain's story, he wanted to meet in person. Opening his encyclopedia, Lucas commanded the spirit to appear. It seems that he and Neja know each other. Rain recognized His Majesty the Third Prince. And he also asked why he looked so much like a girl. Neza's reaction to this is, as usual, explosive. Realizing who controlled the spirit, Yank approached Rain and began to do something. From his essence, using methods that were not entirely clear to those around him, he extracted a worm. The beetle is a soul captor, one of the very rare monsters that, in combination with magic, can penetrate the souls of living beings and then control them. Now only one demon masters this art. Vigo is a member of the great 7 demonic kings, who are at the origins of the alliance to eliminate the gods. Lucas couldn't understand what this was all about. Meanwhile, in a building located somewhere in the wilderness, the demons discussed their plans. Under the ceiling of Vigo's room, jars of red-colored liquid hang like garlands. These jars contain the heads of people who had guardian gods during their lifetime. Wind demon Diana reported on Rain's failure and that he had been captured by Lucas. Nearby, the lightning demon Ethan expressed his hatred of the gods and his desire to wait for the time when the world would become a real home for demons. But Rain completed his task, so everything doesn't matter. There's one less waste, and Diana and Ethan can start fulfilling their mission. While Nana feels depressed, it won't be difficult to get her guardian spirit Angie. Wanting to quickly restore his head, Vigo hurried his henchmen. There are 7 demons who managed to preserve their bodies using various methods, as did some deities like Yank and Neja. They united and created an organization whose goal is to destroy the line of deities. However, the Demon Alliance did not show much activity for several hundred years, so it is difficult to say what made them act this time. Neza is confident that he can single-handedly smash them to smithereens. But after rebirth, the male god is no longer so strong. You can join forces with Kiram. He is still an ancient god, but you should be careful, because if the Alliance of Demons has begun to operate, danger will await you at every step. Lucas and Neza excitedly discussed that the demons would not be able to scare them, and Yank noticed that there is no need to worry about them. The guys are strong enough to defend themselves. But there are still many descendants of deities in the world, and not all of them know about it. Indeed, once you find out how Nana is doing, the Demon Union is most likely aware of Angie. Neza went to discuss with Wood who this Nana was. Lucas managed to reach his friend. She spoke very quietly. Out of excitement, he began to indistinctly ask many questions about how she was and where she was. Nana is sitting in the cinema with her friend at the premiere of the film. The most interesting episode is about to be shown. On the screen, an angry bear comes towards the main character, waves its paw, and the canvas seems to be cut in half. The lightning demon Ethan appeared in front of the girls. Nana and her friends screamed and ran out of the hall. The call had not yet been terminated. From the sounds from the phone, Lucas realized that he had better hurry. The situation is quite dangerous. Neza offered to take Lucas on his ring of fire. The former deity Neza was able to move with the help of fire rings, even through the air. But due to rebirth, this ability was lost. Now the fire ring is the name of the new motorcycle. At this speed, Lucas was afraid that he would simply be carried away by the wind. But they arrived at the place quite quickly. Neja stood up and walked inside. Realizing that Lucas was not there, he returned to pick him up, because Nana was in danger. The same one stood leaning on the front door. Our hero was not used to riding motorcycles. And at such a speed, he needed a little time to come to his senses. And in the corridor, Maya and Nana were running from the violent monster, trying to get out of the building as quickly as possible. Without worrying about the interior of the cinema building, the demon destroyed everything around it, while Nana tried to somehow protect herself and her friend. She hasn't mastered that many techniques, so it would be stupid to get into a fight. But water conducts electricity, causing the girl's entire body to be pierced by the demon's lightning. Lucas was a little late to help. Nana's whole body became numb. She would no longer be able to use spiritual power, which means she would no longer be able to somehow protect herself. The demon was preparing to attack again, gathering peals of electricity around itself. Entrusting Nana to Neze's protection, Lucas prepared to take the fight. At first, the male bomb objected. It was not proper for a prince to babysit anyone, but Lucas assured that now it would be difficult for him to control his strength. It would be safer. Swinging Banier's halberd, our hero dealt a fiery blow to the enemy. Ethan easily clamped the blade between his teeth. What strength! In the modern world, it is quite easy for a lightning demon to receive a huge portion of energy. Neza, chewing popcorn, watched the performance with interest. In this situation, the enemy is really strong. Conjuring a powerful ball of lightning in his hand, Ethan launched it to hit Lucas and Kiram. But when faced with the attack of divine flames, it immediately scattered. The demon expected this attack to be his last, but his opponent managed to respond. With such and such power of electricity, he cannot even cope with Pikachu. But he corrected the guy's hairstyles with his rank, and in general, Neja stands on the sidelines and does nothing. So at least let him keep his comments to himself. Ethan is offended by this behavior. How dare they chat and joke during the fight? With his attack, he sent electricity all over the floor. Lucas managed to jump, but what about the others? Neza lifted the girls into the air without any problems. There is no need to worry when they are under the protection of the great god. The electricity spread to the walls and ceiling, turning the room into a web, and everyone inside into butterflies who could not get out of it. At the movie theater, Lucas can't use his full power because it would destroy the building. But he has some idea. By igniting a larger fire around himself, Lucas caused the fire alarms to go off. The whole room began to flood with water. Ethan laughed and put out his own flame. Neza seemed to understand what kind of plan arose in Lucas's head. Unsuspectingly, the lightning demon attacked with an electric whip. Random discharges quickly approached the source, as if in a chain. The demon's body was thoroughly fried by its own attack. Ethan probably knows that water is a good conductor of electricity. But it's worth knowing that it can also cause a short circuit. The demon knelt down and sparkled, as if he himself was about to turn into lightning. That's right. By turning his entire self into one powerful charge of electricity, he hoped to fry everyone in the room. Electricity caused chaos in the street. Power poles fell. Passers-by began to scatter away from the cinema. But not everyone could escape. The girl was saved by a handsome blonde, who picked her up and ran to the side. Don't cry, the baby is safe now. The boy was also safe, but the man who saved him looked as dangerous as a falling pillar. Where Mr. Neja is, there is always complete chaos. Lucas managed to gather all his strength and was pinched by the powerful attack. But partly, it's good that this was a dying blow. Our hero will no longer be able to fight. The wind blew through the room. Diana came to finish her work. She could not even imagine that her comrade was capable of sacrificing himself to complete the task. And he sent her to quickly take the victim to the owner. Even before her death, she continues to be rude. But there is no need to worry. Diana will handle the delivery herself. Neza rushed at the demoness. Nana was under his protection and nothing could happen to her. But Diana rushed away as if she were the wind. Unable to do anything, Lucas desperately tried to even just get to his feet. But as soon as he got up, he lost consciousness and fell into Neja's arms. Ben and Dustin came in handy. They were tasked with delivering the demon and Lucas to the association. But Neja doesn't seem to be going back. He will go in search of the demons who attacked and kidnapped Nana. After sleeping for 3 days, Lucas finally came to his senses. When he opened his eyes, he saw something. The kitten fell asleep on his chest, but with her butt she had to lie in the other direction. Yank, dressed as a nurse, came to treat the patient. What a circus. Katya and her ass flew into the face of the playwright, and where he constantly gets such shameful costumes, and the greedy cat is quite heavy to sleep on his chest. Yank and Katya pretended to look pitiful in order to receive forgiveness. Lucas suddenly remembered what happened, jumped up. How did he get here and what happened to Nana? Neza just came into the room and told Lucas how many days he had slept, and also that the association had sent a group of hunters to search for his girlfriend. Unable to contain his emotions, Lucas blamed his new ally for everything. But you shouldn't blame Neza. Everyone makes mistakes. And besides, He's been searching for 3 days without closing his eyes. And he understands Lucas perfectly, so he won't pay attention to such impulses. Looking down at the guy, our hero blushed very red, observing the woman's breasts. Why he received a slap in the face, you won't understand, Mr. Neja. He himself denies his female body. A message arrived on Lucas's phone saying that the sender knows where to look for Nana. A couple of hours later, our hero arrived at the appointed place. Neza came for him to look at the man who managed to find what he could not. Waiting for them at the table was Maya, Nana's friend, whom they definitely didn't expect to see. Neza ordered ice cream and loudly raved about how delicious it was, which drew the attention of all the men in the restaurant to him, who would like to turn into ice cream melting in her mouth, which made Neja send them away rather rudely. She turned from a cutie into a scary monster, and Lucas started the conversation for which they gathered. Does she really know where to find Nana? Or is she just up to the same old? Since Envy Turtle left her body, she has returned to normal. However, after this, some abilities awakened in her body. People possessed by spirits awaken their own spiritual abilities, and this cannot be changed. But then Maya comes out and can see Kiram. She is not at all afraid. She even thinks that the two of them look very good together. It was immediately clear from her face what she was thinking. Putting his hand on Maya's face, Lucas asked her to stop imagining such terrible things, and to better tell her what was going on with the search. That magical feather, embodied by spiritual power, 3 days ago, taking advantage of the moment, she inserted the same one into Nana's hair. And following the second feather like a compass, you can come to the first. But by tomorrow, the feathers will disappear. Maya cannot fight, so this is the only way she can help. Neza fell on Lucas's shoulder so as to find Nana. He didn't close his eyes for 3 days, and now he finally fell asleep. Only the place I chose was a little inappropriate. Our hero took him to his home, where Kotya and the spirit of the Scratcher immediately appreciated its beauty. But no matter how cute she is, the position in which she sleeps is terrible. The pen will not last long. There is no time to ask for help from the association. But will it work alone? By the way, Emma came to visit Lucas, not modestly bursting into the door, passing by and decided to come in and offer to eat together. Here comes the help. With her giantess powers, she will definitely be a good support. Lucas began to beg for help to save him, but there was no point in asking Emma. Having heard such news, she would have asked for it without asking. This is not the time to scratch your tongue. The friend herself grabbed Lucas and hurried him to search. The feather led them to a lonely house in the private sector of the city, in its most remote part. There is not a soul around. Only 2 guys stand at the entrance. The aura of those possessed emanates from them, but they do not seem dangerous. Emma and Robin expressed a desire to go and deal with them together. But you can't just barge in. Besides, her spirit form is too big and will immediately attract attention. Lucas suggested using the beauty plan. Emma should take the role of the decoy girl. This will definitely work, because she is the most beautiful athlete at their university. What a compliment from Lucas. Let the transformation into a beauty begin. Using spiritual power, Emma grew her hair long. Now you can safely go lure guys into your female networks. The powers of the Robin clan allow Emma to both change her body size and change, for example, the length of her hair and skin color. Lucas is a student and cannot control his fantasies about such abilities, for which he received a slap on the head from an embarrassed girl. The demons at the entrance were discussing the beautiful Diana when they could find themselves an equally beautiful wife. And quite opportunely, Emma came up, pretending to be a fragile girl, asking for help to find her way home. And then they surrounded her like kites around a defenseless victim. Lucas and Kiram were waiting for the right moment when these 2 pawns let their guard down. Then There is no longer any need to make plans. Emma could not stand such impudent treatment and knocked them out without any spirits. How shameful they were to take advantage of a defenseless girl. As soon as Lucas ran out of the ambush, windy blades flew from above. Grabbing Emma in his arms, he deftly dodged them, leaving impressive cuts on the ground. It was not possible to sneak in unnoticed. Now we have to fight the wind demon Diana on her own territory. In addition to her abilities, there are many wind traps placed around her, and it's quite difficult to get to the forehead. She simply blows Lucas away with the wind. There is a spell in this place that strengthens the wind demons. If you start a fight, you may not get to Nana. In addition to breathing the wind, Diana also has hurricane defense. It is difficult to get even half a step closer. Emma took the form of a giant. Now the hurricane is like a light breeze for her. If the enemy is the size of a mountain, then for the windy blades he is just a huge target. Lucas should leave Diana to an ally and rush inside to find Nana. After all, Emma is full of strength, which cannot be said about her other friend. And if she doesn't hurry, she could die. And like a spark, our hero rushed towards the building. The main thing is to be in time. Diana aimed multiple blades, hoping to smooth Lucas's path. But Emma erected a natural wall, giving her friend a chance to run faster without distractions. Hitting the door with all his might, our hero burst inside. Many possessed people just outside the door turned to look at him. They will not allow you to go further and disturb their master. But in order to fulfill what was said, you need to have a lot more strength. Meanwhile, Vigo performed a ritual to extract the guardian spirit from Nana's body. Suspended from the ceiling, she barely retained consciousness. The ritual was almost over. All that remained was to light the last incense, and then the demon would receive the power of the divine spirit. Lucas flew into this room unceremoniously. It turns out that behind everything, there was an ordinary mummy. For the fact that Vigo kidnapped our hero's woman, he will have to answer with his head. Such loud words, despite the fact that so many wounds were received from petty possessed pawns. If you look closely, among all the blood on Lucas, there is not a drop that belongs to him. Soon, Vigo's blood would sprinkle his body. Lucas ran to attack, but the enemy whispered something and a whirlwind swirled in the air. The smoke thickened and extinguished Lucas's flame, and then a masked man emerged from the fire. He introduced himself as the Reaper of the True Fire, Bart. It's not easy to introduce himself as a Reaper of Fire in the presence of Lucas. Now he will experience for himself what the flame of true fire really is. A pair of fiery weapons clashed on equal terms. But Kiram seems to know Bart. He was subdued by Vigo, and now he has to fight with his own. While Lucas repelled the attacks, his guardian admired the excellent technique of the spear. It would be better to help me figure out what to do next, instead of admiring it. Bart really wielded the spear excellently. It almost reached the target. Gathering Banier's strength, Lucas unleashed a powerful fiery blow, which caught the enemy, and he flew far back. Bart is a scarlet child of fire, a child of goodness and prosperity. Why does he serve a demon like Vigo? But he didn't answer, stood up silently. The mask flew off his face from the last blow. Lucas stared at the beautiful face. From what I didn't have time to dodge the spear, a little more, and Nana would have been lethal. While they fought, Vigo lit the last of the incense and completed the ritual. Lucas, being able to continue, grabbed the spear with one hand. Another used a move he had come up with, calling it a firehammer strike. This blow was decisive. The enemy fell and never rose again. Without wasting a second, Lucas rushed to attack Vigo, but it was already too late. Bart had stalled for time enough. Nana's spiritual strength was already leaving her body. She felt it, pain and weakness, and she found a new refuge in Vigo's body, the demon's long-awaited prey. Lucas's attack was immediately repelled by the water element, and a heavy wave hit his entire body. Severe pain gripped our hero, and he received not only a physical blow. What a powerful spiritual force. The demon freely used Angie's powers. The soul-stealing inscription is capable of forcibly taking the soul of the guardian spirit. Thus Vigo was able to fully restore his powers. Water is stronger than fire. Now the demon aims to attack and visit Kiram. Lucas fully appreciated Angie's true strength, defending himself and preparing to attack back. It's better not to get into trouble, and rather evade, because the enemy has an advantage. Vigo's blow blew out the flames and loudly flew into the wall. Lucas managed to jump up. This attack cut a hole into the street, through which another battle can be seen. Diana continued to shoot branch blades endlessly, but Emma could not attack and only continued to defend herself, exhausted. There was only a little time left before her spiritual energy ran out. Vigo's water attack flew through the wall of the building and pierced Emma's natural shield. The demonic aura of the master, he managed to perform the ritual and absorb the power. Diana assumed that this meant that he managed to defeat the boy who had slipped through. Such news added motivation to Emma to hurry up. She needed to finish quickly and run to her friends. Diana is sure that in such a small form, without mastering the air control technique, the enemy will not reach her. But Emma deftly galloped along the springboards that she had created while defending herself. You need to hit it with one boa constrictor, because she really doesn't have the skills to fight in the air. In an attempt to push Emma away, Diana created a storm. You cannot dodge, otherwise your only chance for victory will be missed. Just before the blow, having enlarged her hand to the size of a giant, Emma sent the demoness to the ground like a rocket. Vigo felt the defeat of his ally. But this no longer matters. As soon as he receives the power of Kiram, becomes the strongest, and gathers everyone he wants under his command. It's too early to make plans. Lucas is still on his feet and ready to continue fighting. But his attacks do not reach their target. Vigo covered his body with water armor. It's commendable that Lucas was able to use the healing flame, but unfortunately, it's not enough. Vigo intends to show his opponent how weak he is. The water sword could not be blocked with the halberd. Lucas did not understand how, but without much movement, he received a serious wound in the shoulder. As he swung for the final blow, Vigo's body stopped listening to him. Angie resists. Her real vessel is alive and asks to stop the demon. Vigo, of course, didn't like this, and he quickly got rid of the interference. Lucas couldn't do anything, couldn't get back on his feet. You cannot allow anger to fill your heart, otherwise the inner demon will gain freedom. But it was too late. Nana was simply trying to protect him, which cost her dearly. Her shoulder was healing before her eyes, and the fire gradually turned black. The demon sealed in Kiram's soul broke free, and the more Lucas wanted revenge, the more he lost his mind. Kiram was left alone, the vessel left him. His soul was shrouded in chains, which meant the defeat of the deity. chains that fell from the dark side of his soul named Karim, a soul that would not worry about the vessel. Now Lucas looks different. Vigo could not fully comprehend what was happening. The enemy's divine aura was replaced by a demonic one. But who cares? He still intends to devour her. Wishing the death of the false god, and not realizing that his opponent was no longer Kiram, Vigo attacked head-on. Karim didn't even move. The water sword lit up with black flames. Did Vigo have time to prepare for death? All of his water attacks scattered like brittle ice, too weak. One hit to the face, and he flies to the other side of the room. Yawning, Karim mocked Kiram. How could anyone lose to such a weakling? Desperately continuing to attack, Vigo still hoped for victory. Thousands of ice swords flew towards the enemy. In Karim's hands, the halberd changed its shape, turning into a black scythe. With one swing from Banye, black flames engulfed everything in front of her. The swords burned out before they could reach the target. The hellish flames did not go out. In an instant, Karim disappeared, so quickly that Vigo did not have time to understand where. The false god hit him in the back, then walked around the body lying on the floor and humiliatingly stepped on his head. And such a weak demon managed to steal Angie's powers. He couldn't even use 1/10 of what was stolen. It's time to die. You have to decide whether to burn the loser or cut off his head. But if you kill the body, which is a vessel for Angie, then her soul will die. But Karim doesn't care about other people's lives, so it's useless to ask for mercy. Vigo's head shot up. Karim burned it with a powerful column of flame, leaving only a pile of ash. A small blue drop, the remnant of Angie's soul, flew over the ashes. Still, we managed to save a piece. No one expected anything less from her. Emma entered the building. Thank God Lucas is okay, although his appearance has changed a little. Just as she wanted to come closer, Wood and Neja blocked her path. After receiving a report from the Hunters Association, they found this place. Coming closer to Lucas, Neja decided to ask what happened to him. He carried a demonic aura. But Karim, allowing himself to do whatever he wanted, simply kissed the beauty he liked. The girls, standing to the side, actively commented on their impressions. But the kiss is not just a whim. Kiram took the spiritual power by force. But the figure is still good. It's a pity the chest is like a board. After being in a stupor for some time, Neja came to his senses. Filled with rage, he was preparing to kill him for such an act. But it is not difficult to dodge such straightforward attacks. Jumping back to the broken wall, Karim declared that he did not waste time on petty friendly fights. He got the body with such difficulty, and now there was an opportunity to have some fun. Immediately a drawing appeared on the floor. Don't move anymore. What else is this? Trigawama demonic seal. Leon entered the room. To seal Karim, he needs help. Wood and Neja must stand nearby and hold the demon in the center so that he cannot escape. True, they didn't seem to particularly like the nicknames Firebird and Flower Boy. But Leon didn't know how to address them. They didn't have time to get to know each other. Why, being a demon just like Karim, did the Headless One take the other side? Heaven decides whether to be a demon or a god, but everyone decides to do good or evil for themselves. Leon would never help a demon take over someone else's body. Wood and Neja didn't bother to figure out who is who. Obviously the seal needs to be completed first. No matter how Kiram resisted, they managed to drive him back. The demon's spirit left his body, and Lucas fell to the floor, unconscious. He'll be fine. He just used too much spiritual power. But Nana needed help much more. If she didn't hurry, she could die. Leon offered his help. Let the association take care of the wounded, and he would deal with what happened on the spot. Neza won't say thank you. God couldn't stop thanking the demon. The head of Thomas, Leon's vessel, must be somewhere in this room. You will have to try to find it. Lucas had a dream in which he walked in the void and looked for Kiram. But only Karim came to his call, placing his hand on his shoulder and approaching his face. And then Lucas woke up in bed in Yank's room. All his new comrades from the association were nearby. They rejoiced at his awakening. But why aren't Emma and Nana nearby? Are they okay? Intensifying the situation, Yank began to talk about Nana as if she was no longer with us. Although they did what they could. But she. Lucas ran up and fell to his knees by her bed, asking for forgiveness and saying goodbye to his friend. Then he woke her up, putting his hand on her head. She stopped his torment. And everyone started laughing at him. He burst into tears like a girl. Yank did not mean Nana. She is in perfect order. But they were unable to restore the Guardian's fortitude. Angie appeared. Having lost almost all her strength, her soul returned to its original state. Although she has weakened, she has become quite obedient, and it is now easier for Nana to cope with her. Maybe now she'll give up her daily attempts to kill Kiram. But no. No one knows what happened between them. But even in this state she threw water in his face. Well, it's better to talk about the appearance of Karim. In comparison with Vigo, he is 1,000 times more dangerous. Before you become a god, you must get rid of the demon hiding in your heart. Karim is another part of the deity, his demonic manifestations. Having divided the soul, the dark and light sides fought for 7 days and 7 nights. The one who won remained the only god of fire in the world, but it is impossible to destroy the second half, since they remain one. Therefore, all this time, Karim was imprisoned deep in the soul. It was worth telling Lucas about such an important secret, but now he too has something to do with it. But Kiram could not even imagine that Nana's death could generate such strong hatred in the heart of our hero that it would destroy the seal holding back the demon. The girl felt guilty for everything that happened, but it's okay. Only Vigo is to blame for everything. By the way, after Karim took possession of Lucas's body, he easily dealt with the enemy that Kiram could not cope with. But this is only because the demon took complete control of the body and was not at all worried about the integrity of the vessel. If this had continued, our hero's body would have turned to ashes. The door opened and a stranger entered the room, happy that Lucas had come to his senses. He assures that Lucas owes him for one service, but none of those present have seen him before. Finally, they met the whole Thomas, a descendant of Leon. With great difficulty, they managed to find the head among many others and resurrect the dying body. Lucas extended his hand, but he walked past straight to Nana. Falling to his knee, he handed her a rose. All his efforts were only for the sake of his beautiful sister. They will make a wonderful couple. They suit each other so well. So this is what Leon's descendant is like, different as heaven and earth. But despite his strong weakness for girls, he is a great guy. And Nana, not understanding what to answer, thanked her with great awkwardness for the modest gift. But Lucas will not tolerate this. Her salvation has nothing to do with Thomas. There is no point in inventing it. So angry is beautiful Nana already taken? Although the two of them had been jealous of each other for a long time, there was no official talk about a relationship, and such questions caused them embarrassment. But even though Nana and Lucas don't say it out loud, they're clearly just trying to work up the courage to share their feelings. In honor of his return, Thomas invites everyone to relax by the sea. Refusals are not accepted. Lucas is against it, but Bfan will be upset if Kiram isn't there. And Wood also has one very erotic swimsuit. Emma and Robin are also delighted with this idea. They haven't run along the seacoast for a long time. And Angie, being a deity who emerged from the water, is very happy about this vacation. Putting on his cute swimsuit, Yank also began to persuade Lucas to go. But the method he chose was not entirely successful. While they are all relaxing by the sea, our hero and Neja will organize real training. But on the beach, you can eat ice cream and freshly fried squid. For the sake of food, training is transferred to the beach. There is no way out. The majority have already decided everything, and Lucas will go with them. Lucas returned to his house, muttering under his breath about needing to buy swimming trunks. But while he was away, a very strong demon came to their house. The Scarlet Child of Fire met him in the living room. All this time, he sat on the sofa and waited for the owner. Has he really come to avenge Vigo's murder? But Bart is no longer under his control and came in the hope that he would be accepted in this house. After Vigo took over his body, huge changes occurred in the world. He does not know how to find his parents and the Goddess of Mercy. Being close to the Great God, he would definitely be able to find information about them. Why would Lucas allow another spirit to live in this house, in which, as he most likely noticed, there are already a couple of parasites? But the bard will not burden the master, be it cleaning or cooking, polishing, raising a child, training a bear, he can do it all. And why does the deity have so many everyday skills? That's because the Goddess of Mercy, with whom he was for a long time, despite her righteous image, in fact, is still a lazy woman. Well, Lucas allowed Bart to stay, but on the condition that he take off his mask. Obviously, in order to admire his beautiful face, the girls immediately ran to gossip. They could have moved a little further. The next day, arguments were heard coming from Lucas's apartment about Bart taking off his ancient clothes. Just at that moment, Nana, Emma, and Yank came to pick up their friend on the road to the sea. Entering the room, they saw Lucas forcefully trying to undress the guy. Nana is unable to cope with the thought that her lover is such a pervert. Sitting down calmly, Lucas told how Bard came to live with him, and explained what caused the earlier misunderstanding. Nana and Yank invited their new acquaintance to join them on vacation. But Kocha and the Scratcher Spirit wanted to get to know their new neighbor better. Lucas left his roommates and went out with friends. As soon as the door closed, the girls lay down and began to wonder how they could idle around. Bart, looking at them, understood why they were not taken to the sea. The sun was blazing on the beach. The weather forecast for the day was excellent. Wood immediately began assessing the men relaxing on the beach. And Nana was worried whether her swimsuit was too revealing. No matter how revealing it was, everyone would still stare at the non-naked parts. Two such beautiful girls didn't have to wait long for male attention. A couple of guys came up to invite them to swim or play water games together. Nana didn't know what to do, and Wood said that they weren't her type, and she needed to figure out how to refuse them without offending anyone. Lucas immediately came and asked not to cause trouble for his friends, to which the guys reacted aggressively, ready to defend their rights to the girls. But can these jocks put two beauties on their shoulders at the same time? Then he put the guys in their place, and they ran to swing so that they could do the same. Nana and Angie did not appreciate such protection and felt terrible shame. Meanwhile, Thomas found himself in his heavenly place, where he was surrounded by girls in swimsuits. Leon suggested that it might be better to wear a one-piece swimsuit, and Neja preferred to spend his time cutting through the waves on a surfboard. On the beach, he gathered a group of fans who admired his skills and appearance. True, from afar they considered him a handsome guy. But when he came ashore, he greatly disappointed the girls. Suddenly the sky became cloudy, waves rose and heavy rain began to fall. Neza froze and stared at the sky. Memories filled him. Not understanding why his friend froze, Lucas tried to take him under the awnings, but this rain was not easy. Thousands of years ago, the same rain fell over the palace in the lands of Tengu. The great dragon asked Neza to admit his guilt and accept his punishment. Otherwise, the nearby lands would be flooded. No one should suffer for his mistakes. Neja squeezed his sword tighter in his hand, and he paid respects to his parents. He owes no one anything else. This downpour reminded him strongly of the one on the day of his death. Not the most pleasant memories, so the one who caused them may not expect mercy. Neza hit someone who was behind the clouds, and the sky immediately became clear. It seems the man is falling. Lucas rushed to save him. Was it really this girl who caused the rain? The attack hit her right in the head. Neza seems to be familiar with her. He didn't think there would be a chance to meet Felix again. But the girl did not recognize who was standing in front of her, and certainly could not understand how she knew her name. I don't even remember his face. It seems his punishment was not a good lesson. In ancient times, Neza killed the prince of the underwater kingdom, for which he paid before his father, the king of the depths. Realizing who was standing in front of him, Felix immediately hid behind Lucas. Our hero has a good run through ancient legends about many gods. And isn't the prince supposed to be a guy? This story is quite long, and happened due to my own stupidity. Unlike the story of Neja, almost none of the dragons survived the great catastrophe. But Felix managed to save his soul, and he continuously wandered the ocean. Members of his clan have the ability to inhabit any living sea organism. And as a result, due to an oppressive feeling of fear, he moved into the body of a fish. But who knew that this clownfish is not entirely simple? Lucas took out the internet, a clownfish, a type of fish that can change their gender to female, but once they change it, they cannot change it back. With such grief, only Neja is able to understand Felix, because he is also a man trapped in a woman's body. Could these two legendary, never-applicable deities be able to make peace for such a nonsense reason? After the Sea Dragon clan disappeared, chaos reigned in the Water Kingdom. Numerous demonic clans rebelled, and the Dragon Palace was captured by Everett. He constantly sends his subordinates to this part of the sea to kill defenseless people in the water, which is why Felix dispersed the vacationers. Neza didn't even think that the prince was capable of such a noble deed. He always gave the impression of a spoiled and capricious boy, which of course can be said about Neja. So many deities have gathered. It's time to remove Everett from the throne. It might be better for Lucas to stay on the surface, because his guardian is afraid of water. Wanting to prove his fearlessness, Kiram volunteered to teach his receiver the technique of water resistance in a minute. You should hurry. Lucas is the only one left standing on the shore. Well, the technique is really not complicated, and I managed to master it and am not far behind the rest. What a cool skill, and you can breathe and speak underwater without any problems. Lucas remains cheerful, but Kiram seems to have very little time left. But he assures that everything is fine. It just takes a little time to get used to it. As soon as they moved away from the shore, the inhabitants of the underwater world discovered them. Trying to take advantage of the title of prince, Felix ordered that respect be shown to him. A simple fish cannot be a prince, and how can a prince be a woman? If Kiramu is not well, Neza will gladly take on these two. But Lucas will deal with everyone even without the help of the Guardian, because he has become much stronger. Gathering divine fire in his hand, our hero ran towards the enemy. The blow of the penetrating flame reached its target, but the fire immediately went out, as if Lucas had smothered it with his hand. The enemy didn't feel anything. It seems our hero only knows how to talk. There was no way to try fire techniques underwater. But if you do it a little differently, the attack will work. Lucas punched right through the carapace armor. Although the water reduced the strength of the fire, it did not affect its impact. The second guard has also already been defeated, and you can try to scout out the situation in the palace. Even under the pretext of death, the hostages refuse to answer questions. Neza's threats are completely incapable of scaring them. With folded hands, Felix asked not to kill the guards. They were just sea people. Before Lucas had time to admire the nobility, the prince himself began to threaten. And worse than Neza. It seems that he knows better the fears of the inhabitants of the underwater kingdom. The hostages immediately began to beg for mercy and promised that they would tell everything. After Everett occupied the Dragon Palace, he gave the order to go in search of the Sea Beauty in order to make her his concubine. That's why the guards immediately paid attention to them, because there were two beauties here at once. How strong is this Everett, since he was able to overthrow the throne and seize the throne? The ruler himself is not that special. But he has the divine pearl of the depths of the sea. As soon as he uses it, the sea is enveloped in real chaos. Neza is not particularly afraid of such a story. Quickly defeat this Everett and take the pearl. But this is the greatest treasure of the Eastern Sea, and its power has no limits. And if the ruler is driven into a dead end, he will definitely use this power. There is another way to get to the palace, because he is looking for a beautiful concubine. It's unlikely that Neja will be delighted with Lucas's wonderful plan. It's so good that the clothes Kocha bought were left inside Sumi's ring. And why couldn't Felix be dressed in this outfit? He's also a beauty. But it is necessary that at least one guard knows the way to the women's quarters, so as not to give away the disguise. Although the real man Neza was dissatisfied with the outfit, he clearly enjoyed hearing compliments. The guards remained sitting in the same place, although they must obey the Lord. They still hoped that the assembled deities would be able to overthrow him. Having walked unimpeded all the way to the palace, the guys walked and discussed the actions after getting inside. At the entrance they were met by guards and asked to name their names. Pretending to be newcomers, they showed their booty, which they immediately appreciated as a commodity. Neza doesn't know how to calmly accept criticism addressed to her, but they were still allowed inside. Felix felt a strong sadness, looking at the walls in which he grew up. Not much had changed. Walking into the women's quarters, Neja saw that there was someone else behind the curtain. Other unfortunates captured for the Lord of the Sea. But they should not be afraid, because Prince Felix has brought new allies to liberate the underwater world from Everett. So behind the curtain are the most charming girls of the sea people? Earthly tastes are definitely different from underwater ones. Fishmen are more like fish than people. If Everett sees such beauties, they will definitely never be able to return to their family. As long as Prince Felix is nearby, the Lord will not dare to lay a finger on them. But you can pretend to be these sisters, and the three of them get into the throne room. So there is a greater chance that the ruler will choose one of our heroes. The girl from Lucas turned out to be gloomy, probably because he didn't particularly like the outfit. The prince, even in a woman's dress, is ready to admire himself. And Neja gloated. Not only should he suffer. Strata knocked on the door, and warned that soon all the ladies would go to the concubine selection ceremony. The sisters from the Fishman village hid behind the bed, thanking the cute girls for saving them. But they are all men. The guard knocked and then opened the door. It was time to go to the main hall. The servants prepared the next batch of candidates for the ruler. But if they turn out to be colored herrings, like the previous ones, everyone should boil in boiling water. The first is a singer from the clan of sea octopuses. The second is a singer from the clan of starfish. But Everett could not appreciate such fearful people. The prince could not understand what high demands this ruler must have, since he did not even like such beauties. No one knows whether Felix always had such a strange idea of beauty. What a mockery. There was one more batch of beauties left, but the ruler wished everyone to leave the throne room. Having heard this, the beauties did not wait for an invitation, even if he looked at them. The guard demanded compliance with the order and was told to leave the premises. But it looks like Everett has changed his mind. And why are such beauties the last in line? The prince introduced himself as one of the three sisters behind, coming from a family of fish people, since they are weak. They only had enough strength to transform into a human form. The Lord is pleased with the catch. It looks like today he will finally have a wife. But Everett must choose only one sister, otherwise they will all be against it. And why Felix so easily gets the role of a woman will also remain a mystery. The first, sweet and gentle beauty that is hard to stop thinking about. The second one, on the contrary, seems to be a beautiful lady with a rebellious disposition. But at the very time Everett saw Lucas in disguise, he immediately decided that she would become his betrothed. And why did he make this particular choice? Of course, all three of them are men. But at least they have women's bodies. Everett took his chosen one to his royal chambers. It will become their bridal room, and it will be a memorable night for them. Delaying his tenderness, Lucas began to ask the Lord about his exploits, and then gradually led the conversation to the pearl. What a beautiful bead. Is it possible to refuse your beloved's request to take a look? And then Lucas began to be mischievous. But Everett is ready to give it to her, so long as she doesn't think badly of him. Our hero suddenly realized how good it is to have a trouble-free husband. The window opened, and the one to whom the ruler bowed floated into the room through it. Mr. Ryan gave him a sea pearl to search for the sea needle, and he usurped the sea, called himself a ruler, and also started searching for his wife. What a strong demonic aura emanates from him. There is no comparison with Vigo's aura. If Ryan liked the beauty, Everett is ready to give in. But fortunately for Lucas, the demon is only interested in the needle, which he gave 7 days to find. The gentleman finally disappeared, but the little wife also disappeared somewhere. It turned out that Lucas has the pearl. Now we just need to find the rest. The girls sat in the women's room and played dominoes. The prince, seeing that he had gotten a chip with 2 circles, declared victory. How can you win? The game has just begun. But inside the palace, luck is always on the side of the royal family. How long will we have to wait for Lucas? He's been gone for a long time. But our hero only remembered the path to the throne room, where everyone ran away. Kiram cannot feel their spiritual power. Underwater, his abilities are too limited. But before they could reunite with the others, Everett caught up with them. Was the bishop's dear wife really afraid of Ryan's appearance? Wanting to stop this circus, Lucas tore off his women's clothing, and the pearl hangs around his neck like a pendant. Now the sea inhabitants do not have to be afraid of therapy. Everett was furious at such a deception. How dare he pretend to be a woman? The true form of the Lord of the Eastern Sea is a spinning turtle. He rolls around the room, crushing everything with his shell. But compared to Lucas, he moves rather slowly. So it looks like Kiram's help won't be needed here. I didn't even have to particularly respond to attacks. In most cases, it was enough to just dodge. Who would have thought that the demon who conquered the entire Eastern Sea would turn out to be such a weakling? But he did not try to fight. The purpose of his impulses was to tear the pearl from our hero's neck. Now Everett is driven into a corner. With his beak he bites through the treasure and dooms the sea world to endless chaos. Kiram felt a powerful source of spiritual love. So much so that it seemed possible to touch it. Everything around began to collapse. Neza and Felix ran into the throne room. The prince immediately understood the cause of the earthquake. Grabbing his comrades by the arm, Lucas hurried to lead them out of the palace. It became very dangerous inside. It was also not calm on the surface. The waves swayed and became stronger. It was as if a tsunami was approaching the shore. And should we worry about those still at sea? It's useless to call the Hunters Association. They definitely won't have time to arrive so quickly. But if nothing is done, a lot of people will die. We need to try to save as many as we can, and no one will run anywhere. Nana and Emma are both brave and kind. Thomas doesn't know who he would choose, but he's unlikely to have to choose. The seabed started to come apart at the seams, and there were more and more deep cracks. A huge whale swam out in front of our heroes. You can feel how enormous its spiritual power is. It seems that rifts began to appear due to the vibrations created by this huge monster. We must not allow him to continue to go on a rampage. Otherwise he will turn everything upside down. We need to stop him. Having attacked the whale, Nija flew back. His blow had no effect at all. It seemed the monster didn't even feel anything. The power of the ancient beasts is too great. Can anything be done to defeat it? The Dragon King once told the prince that only a sea needle could seal a huge monster. Everett mentioned that it lies somewhere in the vastness of the Eastern Sea, which is why he came here. But it is so huge that it is unlikely to be found. The Dragon Clan is the soul of all the seas. If Felix unites with the sea, he can easily find the needle. But if you do this, his soul will disintegrate throughout the sea, which is almost the same as destroying your soul. Many years ago, Neza also sacrificed himself to save ordinary people. And now the prince seems to understand why he did this. Now is not the time to grieve. We cannot allow his sacrifice to be in vain. A small firefly flew up to the guys. Felix's soul was calling them to follow him. They should hurry up. Meanwhile, on the surface, the waves continued to wash away the shore, and each time they came higher and stronger. To stop them at least a little, Emma erected a natural wall along the coast. Leon and Wood are left to watch. With their abilities they can't help much, and Bifen refuses to go anywhere near the water. Nana climbed onto the wall. Angie has little strength, but perhaps she will be able to hold back some of the water. Returning to Lucas, Felix's soul led them to another rift. It seems the needle is inside this cavity. Having jumped down, our hero did not understand how he would recognize it, because the depression itself was not so small. In the dark, he hit his forehead on some pole. Are they really laying electronic cables in the sea too? It looks like this is a sea game, a huge one. How can one get one to the seabed? Lucas grabbed her as best he could and pulled, without moving a millimeter. She has already found her owner, and besides him, she is unlikely to obey anyone else. Placing his hand, Lucas tried to talk to the gun, asking for help to save the Eastern Sea. Everything around began to tremble. It seemed that the owner of the Sea Needle had been sleeping at the bottom of the rift for a long time, and he did not like being woken up. The divine spirit Monko appeared before them. Sensing what was happening around him, he realized that he would not have long to sleep in any case. To stop the ancient beast, the deity needs a vessel. Now only Lucas is in front of him. But Kiram is ready to defend his ownership of this body, behaving like a jealous person. Just not for long, because no one else can stop the monster's rampage. Neza was worried that they had been lost for a long time. There was very little time. Apparently the ancient beast also felt the aura of the sea needle and swam to the same place. Monko jumped out very opportunely and saved Neja from the approaching threat, avoiding unnecessary effort. He first tried to talk to the monster. Maybe he would voluntarily swim back to sleep. But in response, he will only receive powerful water magic from his mouth, which the monkey deftly dodged. It seems there is nothing left but to seal the beast by force. Quickly moving around the fish, Monko disappeared from its sight. And then, increasing the size of the needle, he hit her in the side with all his strength. Incredible force. How quickly he managed. The deity then went to the surface, where Nana held back the waves of their last strength. How weak the Guardians have become. Monko slept for a long time and is ready to show how to use his powers. By increasing the length of the sea needle, he easily cut the waves and stopped the unrest on the coast. A couple of hours later, the news was discussing the strange phenomena that had happened that morning, especially the sand wall that appeared out of nowhere. This time the task will be beyond the capabilities of the Association's settlement department, which usually successfully covers its tracks after hunters. At the same time, having left everyone, Neza stood on the shore and said goodbye to Felix. His sacrifice was in vain. Before he could finish his thoughts, a clownfish flew out of the water into his hands. It seems that the prince was able to save his soul. At the bottom, Everett crawled out from under the ruins of the palace. He was lucky to survive under such rubble. But you were unlucky to immediately meet the demon Ryan. His expression is cold, but nothing good should be expected. The pearl, the treasure of the sea waters, was destroyed, hoping for pardon. Everett asked to be given a couple more days to search. He, of course, could not find the needle. But thanks to the turtle, he managed to find it, and as punishment, he will return to his original form. And the demon turned him into a simple turtle. He will have to grow and increase his spiritual strength from the very beginning. And since the pipefish is kidnapped by a person, there is nothing left. Ryan took on human form. A short journey to Earth awaits him in the form of a beautiful girl. A week later, everyone stopped thinking about sea stories. Yank dumped a whole can of food into the aquarium, hoping that if Felix eats more, he will be able to quickly restore his previous shape. What Neza didn't like was that the fish would burst or die. He was very worried about the prince. Having received a request from Yank to meet, Lucas came to the office to see if there was some work for him. In the park nearby, many incidents occur. People suffer. Judging by the aura left at the crime scenes, this is the work of a possessed person. What about the monkey spirit? It is much hotter than Kiram, and it will be difficult to control him. After Monko used the sea needle, his spirit fell asleep and never woke up. After discussing all the details of the task, and discussing the second soul in his body, Lucas went to check the information. Having waited until late evening, when there was almost no one on the street, he came to the park. Cries for help were heard on the site. The demon of a nimble wolf was chasing a fragile girl. The chase did not last long. He was about to devour her. Lucas ran out as fast as he could and pinned the demon to the ground with a fiery fist. Having assessed the rank of the nimble wolf, he realized that he couldn't get much money for him. He was too weak. Such words sounded offensive, trying to prove his strength. The demon attacked our hero. Although its name means that it should be fast, its movements are so slow that it is not difficult to dodge. Having defeated the demon with one blow, Lucas sealed it in the Yank Encyclopedia. The task this time turned out to be easy. The girl was in no hurry to thank the saviors. She tried to understand what kind of monsters were running around the city. The association gave Lucas a special artifact, which, after use, changes a person's memory for a certain period of time. The girl could not remember how she ended up in this particular place and what kind of people stood in front of her. Lucas kindly said that she was attacked by a man, and he was nearby and was able to help. Such a weak girl should not walk alone in such sparsely populated places. But her house is very close. Seeing the wound on her leg, she could not understand how this could happen. Lucas again told her what memories she should remember. It will be difficult to walk with such a wound. It is better to take the poor thing home and check that everything is fine with her. The roof of the mansion could be seen behind the trees. We needed to take the girl to it. Along the way, we managed to get to know Kate better. Such a big house, like a palace. The parents of a new friend are businessmen. The interior looks just as luxurious, and it is clear that the renovation was made of expensive materials. The girl made a flirtatious face. Her parents were working and there wasn't a soul in the house, no matter what she was hinting at. Lucas didn't understand anything. Since everything is fine, it's time to go to my home. It's late and soon to go to bed. To keep him in the house, Kate used the powers of illusion, showing Lucas what a terrible rainfall there was outside. Taxis don't come here. There are no umbrellas. Now you'll definitely have to spend the night in the guest room. Lucas could not even imagine that he would stay overnight with an unfamiliar girl. What surprises life brings. Such a beauty wants with all her might to leave an unfamiliar guy for the night, and also makes unambiguous hints. Kiram begins to suspect that something is wrong here. Upon entering, the presence of gods or demons was not felt. But if the spirit is very strong, then its presence is almost impossible to detect, as was the case with Angie. Kate knocked on the door and asked permission to enter. Having changed into a transparent shirt, she came to ask for help treating the wound. All the time the girl moaned and affectionately asked to be more gentle. It seemed that she was not thinking about the wound. Lucas accidentally hurt her and kicked her in the face. Immediately, Kate climbed on top of him, wanting him to be assertive. Let this be gratitude for the rescue. Lucas could not refuse. Everything is too tempting. Before anything had time to happen, the phone rang. Nana decided to find out how it all went. You definitely need to answer. Kate is not happy with this situation. There was very little left. Starting the conversation with simple questions, Nana asked if he was going home now. Why, there was such a heavy downpour outside, I decided to wait until the weather got better. Looking out the window, Nana said that there was not the slightest cloud outside. They were not that far away for there to be such a difference in the forecasts. Indeed, did Kate's illusion cease to work after talking about the weather? Initially, Nana wanted to find out if Lucas was busy the next day. She needed to come to the student council. According to Maya, guys, when they are with another girl, always talk as if at gunpoint. Well, since the rain has stopped, Lucas will not burden the unfamiliar girl and will go home. Ryan underestimated his goal, which is why he failed to carry out his plans. The next day, our hero went with Nana to the student council. For the first time, he saw what he looked like. On the opposite side of the room, his head sits at a large wooden table. So that's what he is, very handsome. But the university wants rumors that he's an eccentric. This is the one whom Kiram chose as his vessel. It turns out that the head of the student council knows everything. He called upon the guardian spirit in order to show everyone his greatness. The deity is dissatisfied with this trait of a person. One should call only when necessary, and not when one wants to show off. Lucas gave off an ape-like aura, which the student council head's guardian immediately picked up on. Kiram did not like such questions. It was indecent to discuss such things in his presence. It seems the deities did not get along with each other right away.